I want something like that. What I do have, hold on. I bring my whole case file just in case. I used to use those for grant writing. Yes. So I. Now, then that's probably the one they had to do. You would just go and digitally put your name.
Mandy, you ready? Vicky. I'd like to go ahead and call this meeting to order and announce that all the aldermen are present. And I'd like to have Mr. Stephen Gloriuso will give the invocation, and Alderman Wade will follow with the pledge.
Everybody, let's bow your head. God, as we step into 2026, we surrender what we cannot control. Heal the parts of us that the last year's left tired and broken. Give us peace that is stronger than fear and louder than doubt. Protect us in health, our mind, and the people we love. Remove what no longer serves our growth or purpose. Guide our decisions so we don't repeat old lessons. Bless our efforts, even the ones no one sees. Teach us patience when answers take time. Help us choose faith over worry every single day. If nothing else in 2026, God, let us grow closer to you. In Christ's name we pray.
Amen.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we have a few certificates to give for.
Wait, you need to approve the.
Yeah, do we have a motion
to approve the agenda?
I'll second.
A motion by Alderman Blackman, second by Alderman Pfeiffer. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, now we can move on to, we've got 3 certificates recognition of employment of years of service. We've got police research analyst, Ms. Jessie Breland. We also have Josette Kelly, custodian Josette Kelly. Is she present? She's not here tonight.
I'll present it to her.
Okay. 10 years of service. We have firefighter Harris Paul Williams, 5 years of service. And we have our head mechanic, 5 years of service, Mr. Brian Parr. Thank y'all very much. By the way, Happy New Year to everybody. Wonderful to see a great crowd here tonight for our first meeting of the year. So let's move on to a public hearing. Southeastern Construction and Remodeling LLC is requesting sketch plat approval of Holly Grove subdivision, a 23-lot townhome, 123-lot, I'm sorry, townhome subdivision on Paps Road. Planning Commission recommends approval. Is there a motion to open?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Alderman Hinton, second by Alderman Wade. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are in public hearing. Miss Amanda?
It's okay. Okay, good evening, everybody. We're here tonight for the public hearing of Holly Grove, proposed 123 lot townhome subdivision. The Planning Commission considered this request at the regular meeting of November the 12th, 2025. Instead of coming straight to the Board of Aldermen meeting, which was the December 2nd meeting, it was requested by the applicant to defer to tonight's meeting. I would like to start off a little bit by giving some background, since we're here considering townhomes and the subdivision process, to let everybody know. By definition, townhomes are in a row of at least 3, no more than 6 units. They have how their front, they have access on the front and the rear. No unit shall be located over another, and they're separated by a common party wall. Each unit is also located or is capable of being located on its own individual lot. So that's the reason that we're here tonight, because we're requesting a subdivision where each lot is subdivided separately. For instance, if the developer so chose to do apartments, that would just be one single lot, and we wouldn't have to go through a subdivision process. There are 3 phases of a subdivision process. There's sketch plat, there's preliminary plat, and final plat. Sketch plat is the first phase in a proposed subdivision, and it constitutes the approval of the type, the intensity of the development, and the phasing of the project. So tonight we only have one phase, it's 123 units. So if approved as sketch plat, the next step would be to complete further studies. It would be completing civil engineering, submit water and sewer approvals, state approval letters, wetland permits if applicable, and request preliminary plat approval with full civil plans. But tonight, we're here for sketch plat approval. So if the developer is approved for sketch plat and move on to preliminary plat, that's when they break ground. That's when they build the infrastructure, they create the roads, the streets, the drainage. They submit their letters for MDEQ approval for the water and sewer. And so each stage in the process for sketch, preliminary, and final all go through individual commission meetings. Planning Commission first and Board of Aldermen approval next. So tonight's the first step in the sketch plat approval process for this particular development. The subject property tonight is zoned R1A, which is the Special Apartment Use District, and it contains approximately 19.46 acres with a density of 6.32 lots per acre. It has been zoned R1A since 1987. The proposed townhome subdivision will consist of private streets with 50-foot right-of-way and access roads on Government Street and Paps Road. The developer is proposing a gated community consisting of 5-plex and 6-plex townhome buildings. 5-foot sidewalks are illustrated within the development along Paps Road and Government Street as well. Also, a 20-foot buffer is shown along the adjoining properties to the south and the west. At present, the sketch plat does show a 21.2% green space proposed, along with a 1.17 acre pond, with at least 20-foot wide walkable uplands surrounding the pond. The developer shows a clubhouse, pool, and pickleball courts to offer the residents. In addition, if the developer is proposing to install a sewer pump station on the site, as shown on the site plan, but will conduct a drainage study if approved at the preliminary plat process. Also, a traffic study was provided by the applicant. It was conducted by Neil Schaefer, which indicates that a left turn lane is warranted on Government Street at Holly Grove Road. I'll also add there was questions at the Planning Commission meeting about when the traffic study was conducted. In the report, it states that Southern Traffic Services conducted the traffic counts on 9/23/2025, and the report was generated on 10/9/2025. There's some questions whether or not the children were in school in session or not. So the 10/9 was when the report was generated, but the traffic counts were done on 9/23. Also, part of the review process for sketch plat, when we receive the plat in-house, we do send it to all departments for comments. So all departments did review the sketch plat prior to planning commission meeting. There are some remaining comments that typically would be addressed at the preliminary plat stage. The water department requested a full set of civil plans. Again, at preliminary plat, we would get those. The sewer department requested sewer studies and a full set of plans. The drainage department requested a drainage study down Government Street and Paps Road. The fire department commented a turnaround or a cul-de-sac be provided, so the applicant did provide 2 hammerhead turnarounds on the plan. And also engineering recommends obtaining an approved jurisdictional determination from the Army Corps of Engineers indicating that there's wetlands on the property. And at the public hearing for planning commission, the commissioners considered the information provided by the applicant, the neighboring property owners, and the staff report. The motion was made to recommend approval of the sketch plat. And additionally, after the meeting, I did some further research, staff-wise, and researched the subdivisions kind of surrounding the National Park Service that butts up next to the east side of the development. So Beverly Place and Magnolia Bayou all have incorporated a 30-foot wooded conservation easement within their platted lot lines. So it was not mentioned at Planning Commission, it was found after that meeting. So I did recommend, if passed for the sketch plat, to incorporate a 30-foot wooded buffer along the east side of the property to mimic the other subdivisions. I am available if there's any further questions tonight.
Okay,
I got a couple real quick.
go ahead.
Does that show here, the 30-foot buffer, or will that affect,
It does not.
will it affect the project?
No,
Putting that
because
in?
there's approximately 52 foot from the back of the townhome to the back of the parcel. So there'd be about a 20-foot backyard, leaving that wooded buffer, so it would not affect that layout.
Okay, then second is, can you talk to me more about that green space? How they're calculating it for this project?
So the green space, cannot be used for driveways, roadways. It's all the green space. It cannot include amenities. I mentioned there's 20-foot walkable uplands around the pond, so they can include the pond if they incorporate a 20-foot wide walkable space around it. So it does include the pond. It does include the green space. That is not any parking areas or driveways or sidewalks.
But I thought only 25% of stormwater can be used. Like, only 25% of that calculation can be used because it's stormwater, not the whole. Isn't that correct? Like of the retention and the uploads, or no?
I did not see that in the UDC, honestly. I can go back and check that. I did not see that in the UDC. It just does say, it does state that, like I said, the concrete, the pond, could be used if you provide a 20-foot walk around. But I can further investigate that for you.
Okay.
In regards to the traffic study, what was the time period that elapsed?
It was, according to what I read, was the 1 day, so 9/23 to 10/25. It was, traffic count data was on 1 day. So, typically once, which the city did not pay for the traffic study, so I can't speak on what was mentioned between the developer and the traffic engineer, but typically you order a traffic study, and then it's up to the traffic engineering company, in this case it was Neil Schaefer, to determine what best days or how many days to do your study for. But I can't speak on behalf of Neil Schaefer. I just say typically that's what they do. They leave it up to the traffic engineer to best determine which day to do it.
So we don't know if it was like a 24-hour period it was measured in, or how many
What
hours in that day, or is someone here to speak on that behalf, or?
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
I have some questions on the traffic study, but if we've got somebody here that's going to be answering questions, I'll just wait
Yep.
until they get here.
They're behind me.
Okay.
Yep. Any others for me?
Anybody else got a question for Amanda?
Not right now.
Real quick, back to the green space thing. It was my understanding that some of the calculated green space included the clubhouse, the pool, and the pickleball courts, and some of the streets.
Parking.
And the parking areas.
Okay, it's not shown, it's not spelled out in their site plan to state that it does incorporate that. What I can do, on our side is I can send it through our engineer, and get them to calculate that space for us. The city would just, pay for the services, but the planning department doesn't have CAD in-house, so I'm not able to review that myself, but I can send it out to an engineering firm to confirm that for us, to make sure it doesn't include those areas. My understanding, just looking at it, I would hope it wouldn't include that, but I was not the engineer who did that, but we can confirm and get that double checked by the engineering firm.
Any more? Okay, man, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Not here. Okay, do we have anyone from the public that would like to speak for or against the project?
Not that normally that.
Go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor, Aldermen, staff. Thank you for the opportunity tonight. My name is Ross Bruce. I'm the applicant. Our company name is Dan Bruce Development. I'm here tonight with my business partner, Brian Denton. I also have our attorney, Eric Nichols, here to speak to you, as well as Shane Bergen. He's the traffic representative, Neil Schaefer. So he'll be available for answering clarification or questions you have. Chad Stevens is here with our civil engineering firm, as well as the property owner, David Dale, is also here tonight. As Amanda mentioned, the subject property is zoned R1A, which is special apartment use. The zoning allows for 240 traditional apartment units up to 4 stories tall. However, what we're proposing is what we believe to be more in line with the neighborhoods around us, meaning 1 and 2 story homes with garages and backyards. What we're proposing is a community of 123 townhomes. I would like to point out that this is 17% less than our initial submittal of 146 homes and nearly 50% less density than what the zoning allows for. Community amenities, as mentioned, include a clubhouse, resort-style pool, fitness center, pickleball courts, 4.12 acres of green space, or 21% of our property, which is roughly 4 times the minimum requirement of open space. The community will have a full-time on-site property management and maintenance team. The community, as mentioned by Amanda, will be gated and private, meaning that we retain ownership and maintenance of all roads, sidewalks, detention pond, and most, if not, of all other improvements. We will have 5-foot sidewalks throughout. The property is not located in a flood zone. It's actually about 5 foot above base flood, and there are no jurisdictional wetlands on the property. In terms of drainage, although a drainage impact study is not required until construction plans preliminary plat stage, we've completed some preliminary analysis on drainage. Approximately 1/3 of the property currently is draining south, and approximately 2/3 is draining north. Our drainage system will be designed to reduce post-development 25-year storm event runoff to the existing pre-development 25-year storm event runoff per city ordinance. In other words, no increase in stormwater runoff as a result of our project. It's just simply not allowed. Regarding sewer, we have met with Eric and Sarah in the sewer department and Darren Reeves with Overstreet Engineering. Although this, again, is not required until construction plan and preliminary plat stage, we've completed some preliminary analysis. And we have a few options on sewer, probably involving some upgrades, and certainly it appears a sewer lift station on our property. Again, we'll be getting into the details of that on the next stage of the project. Regarding water, we've discussed water service with the city, and we're being told there are currently no issues with water capacity for the project. Regarding traffic, although a traffic study is not required at this stage, it was requested by city officials that we obtain one. We hired Shane Bergen with Neil Schaefer to complete the study, and the firm, Neil Schaefer is a firm that the city itself has hired in the past. He's here tonight to speak to you about the scope, methods, and results of the study.
Good evening. My name is Shane Bergen with Neil Schaefer. We were hired by the developer to do a traffic impact study for this development. Typically, a traffic impact study, what you do is you look at a typical day, which is usually a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of a typical week. So we contacted Southern Traffic Services. We got 8-hour turn and movement counts at the intersection of Ocean Springs Road and Government Street, and a Government Street and Paps. Those 8-hour counts were done with camera, and we counted from 6 to 9 in the morning to to make sure that we could get that AM peak hour, and we counted from 2 to 7 in the afternoon, so we could get the afternoon peak hour, just to make sure that we didn't miss in case the school was actually the peak, in the afternoon, and that's what we looked at. Part of the study is to get those, look at existing conditions so we can determine what the conditions are currently out there, and then we grow traffic. And we're anticipating that the development would be complete by the year 2030, so we grew traffic to 2030 by using historic traffic counts. The historic growth rate out there on on Government Street is currently 2.58% compound annual growth. That's been over the last 5 years. So in the study, we used a 2.6% growth, just to remain a little bit conservative. And then once we grow that traffic, we add the development traffic to it. And we look at the intersections with and without the development. And with that, the intersection of Government Street and Ocean Springs Road, with the development, it does increase the delay a little bit. In the morning, it increases the total intersection by 4 seconds. So we go from a level of service B at 17 to a level of service C at 21. And that is kind of the worst case for that one. The PM would be, in the future without, is C21, and with the development is C23. And with PAPS, Government Street operates free flow because it's just a one-way stop condition. And so we're really looking at PAPS Road itself. In the AM, we increase that delay by 1 second with the development. And then the PM, it stays the same because most people are actually coming home. And we also, we did turn lane warrants at all the proposed intersections. And as I stated earlier, a left turn lane is warranted on Government Street going into the development. The report recommends that that turn lane be 200 feet long, storage with a 75-foot taper, which is what you get in, and then you'll have a transition. And it just depends on how the roadway is widened, how long that transition is.
Anybody have any questions?
I got a few questions. So, the traffic study is pretty lengthy, so, what happens when let's say the railroad got a train coming by and it stops the delay of traffic? Was any kind of studies done with that, what it's gonna do to the traffic, how long it's gonna take to recoup?
No, it wasn't done for that piece. Obviously that intersection is so close that the signal's preempted when the train comes in, which is you got the blank out sign that comes up, say no left turns coming in, and it probably usually takes a few cycles for the signal to catch up after a train comes through.
Yeah, it seems like that would be a major delay, especially if you're coming off past, trying to get, and the train's coming through, you want to make that right turn, it's just going to back up the traffic. So it just seems like that would be a concern. And then the second question, with all of the growth going on out in Gulf Park Estates, the new homes coming in, there's hundreds of homes that are being built. Was any of that considered, traffic trying to get out of that area? Should they take Spanish Trail, Government Street?
In an indirect way, it was with the background growth, because of Government Street growing at more than almost 2.6%, that we added that growth to it and come in. I can speak to less than a year ago, we completed a study for that area, goes near Ocean Springs High School, completed it for the county. I'm not sure if the county has shared it with the city or not, with annexations, but that was looking at that whole area too, Gulf Park Estates coming up through Camel Farm Road and Greyhound Way, trying to get across 57, to the interstate, or 290, because obviously one of the issues in Ocean Springs with the railroad tracks is there's limited ag-grade crossings. And then if people are trying to get to I-10, there's even more limited opportunities to get to I-10.
Yeah, just with all the growth out there, I know just when school lets out, it's probably one of the worst spots in the city of Ocean Springs trying to get around.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of concerning to me, people trying to go east and west on Government, that would be a potential problem. And then a third question, final, what about like when buses stop, along Government Street? Has anything been looked at that? What it'll do to the traffic, with the added cars coming in and out?
No, I mean, usually a bus stop is, obviously just once in the morning, once in the evening, or in the afternoon. And for the afternoon, it kind of goes along with your part of the state's question is, with us counting traffic from 2 to 7, the worst case scenario in front of development is actually like, I think it's 5 to 6 in the afternoon. So there's more traffic on Government Street when work lets out than there is when school lets out, at least in this area. And so our development, or this development, when the numbers were run, we're looking at the worst case scenario.
Thank you.
Karen, do you have any questions? Mr. Wade?
I'm good.
Tim?
I have a quick question on the traffic study. So what's the margin of error? You picked a day, randomly picked a day. So you pick the next day. What's the margin of error? What's the difference? It could be from one day to the next.
Usually you can say a 5% difference in traffic.
5% in one day's time.
Mhm.
So you could go out there tomorrow and get 5% or more increase of what you got on the day you chose.
Mhm.
And did you only have your equipment set up for one day, or was it set up for multiple days?
It was set up for one.
So you just chose one day and put it up?
It was put up on a Monday afternoon and then taken out on Wednesday morning.
The study was done on it.
That's not real valid in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally agree. I thought it was up maybe 4 or 5 days, but we're just saying one day.
Yeah. I mean, that's what a traffic impact study is typically is a one-day look during a typical day. I mean, you're not going to, count traffic during like the Peter Anderson Festival because you can't design a roadway to handle all that traffic. So you're trying to look at what a typical day is.
Ms. Messenger, you have any questions? Mr. Shane?
So it was a total of how many hours in that day? You said from 2 to 7 and?
We processed 8 hours worth of data. It was 6 to 9 in the morning and 2 to 7 in the afternoon.
It does seem somewhat limiting. I wasn't aware that it was, I assumed it was a 24-hour period
Yeah, it should
over
be.
3+ days to include a weekend, and just in my mind, that was what I assumed. Thank you.
Is that all we have for Shane? Thank you. Jay? Do y'all have anybody else that with you?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Shane. Couple words, a couple of things on traffic. We do intend, Shane didn't say this, we do intend on obviously installing a left-hand turn lane into the community off of Government. And I also want to mention that our initial submittal back in, I think it was July, we met with planning administration. Our initial submittal showed a single entrance off of Government. It was only after feedback from the planning staff that we added a second entrance in the city. So our submittal, and we are perfectly fine with one entrance and one exit off of Government Street. There's something to think about there. This was added as a result of feedback from the city. National Pork, we received a letter from the National Pork Service, as Amanda referred to it. After our planning commission, the National Pork Service is requesting a 20-foot buffer. We're in agreement to add the 30-foot buffer, and to someone's question, I think it was you, Ms. Pfeiffer, it does not affect the current site plan. There's been a lot of misinformation on the homes, the property values, who's going to be living here, so I'd like to take a minute to kind of just tell you the facts on what our plans are for the homes. The homes will range in size from 1,100 to 1,400 square feet. It will be 2 and 3 bedroom units. Each home will have a garage and a private backyard. Rental rates will start out at $1,850 a month for a 2-bedroom and $2,050 a month for a 3. We're actually expecting higher rates, but these are conservative initial lease up that we use for underwriting. It's typical to be conservative there. A little bit of data on who our residents will be. Our minimum requirement is 3 times monthly rent to income ratio, so that means that our residents at a minimum will have to earn $66,000 to $73,000 minimum income to qualify to live in our community. We require credit checks for each resident, criminal background checks as well. We only offer 12-month leases, no month-to-month, no short-term rentals. So also to clarify, it was said in the planning commission meeting that this would be a low-income housing development. That's simply not the case. We don't have any issues of opposition on low-income housing. It's just not what we do, and it's not how this community is being designed. Most of our residents, are renters by choice. As Amanda pointed out, I think it's important to understand that this community will be individually platted lots as opposed to a typical apartment deal. This allows for the homes to be sold in the future. We personally think that's an advantage for the city and everyone else. Down the line, this is not a traditional apartment. And I can't stress that enough, although the site is zoned for that. Prior to the Planning Commission meeting, we held a community meeting for our neighbors and residents who live in the area. That was done in August. Approximately 45 people attended. We laid out the details of the project, nearly word for word for what I've done here tonight. We received a lot of questions from our neighbors. We remain to the very end to answer each and every question to the best of our ability, and did our best to address the concerns of those in attendance. I thought the meeting went well, was civil, and everyone in attendance was polite and thoughtful. In summary, let me say this, Alderman. The planning staff report or memorandum confirms that our properties are R1A zoned, and that our proposed development, and importantly the sketch plan, before you this evening, meets all criteria as laid out by the city and its code ordinances. Since the property is currently zoned R1A, and the fact we're not asking for any variances, we believe our proposed project is used by right and should be approved. In short, we meet all technical requirements and legal standards. That issue cannot be disputed. The question before you tonight is does the sketch plat submittal meet all criteria set forth by the city of Ocean Springs? Clearly, your planning commission believes it does, with a unanimous recommendation for approval, 6-0 of the sketch plat. We ask for your support, and with a vote of yes and the approval of Holly Grove sketch plat. Lastly, we believe it to be a privilege to build a new residential community in the city of Ocean Springs, and we take that opportunity seriously. We look forward to working with everyone to make Holly Grove a successful project for the city. Thank you for your time and the opportunity to present this evening.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of the development? Okay, anyone like to speak against the development, please step forward, one at a time. Come on up. Please state your name and address.
Matt Burleson, 3602 Magnolia Vile, on Ward 5. Well, I jotted down a couple notes to kind of keep organized. Last time I was in here at the Planning Commission meeting, I was a little more emotional and trying to be real professional and right on cue. But with the discussion on the last three speakers, I could throw my notes out the window because I just kind of got to rearrange based on those comments. First one is traffic study. And I know I kind of beat that horse first in his town hall meeting. First thing is, I've been after Mr. Blackman, and he'd tell you for years, I've lived in that address 35 years, so I can tell you about the traffic, okay? And if anybody gets a turning lane, that damn school ought to get something, okay? Y'all need to look at that. I mean, you talking about that gentleman on the end, I don't know, Mr. Chelsea is perfectly correct. When the school lets in, lets out, traffic backs all the way up to Go Park Estates, okay? And we can't get in and out of our subdivision. And now, we currently have, even today before this development even comes in, we have speeders coming from the west, from the east, going west, and when they hit that snag, I've seen them go around, stop cars, come through our neighborhood, cut between our neighborhood and go down Paps Road. So that's going to even intensify, because if you open that lane up, open that road up to traffic to go back to that division, man, it's going to be wide open, okay? And that road is 16 feet wide back there. I mean, that's a narrow road, no shoulders, okay? I just walked it here recently. The other thing is, I'm senior, okay, I'm an old man, but I've been around long enough to know that the most perfect, beautiful apartments over time turn to not so perfect, okay? I won't say as bad as somebody else has said, but I walked that road just this morning, just to kind of get my mind right on this. When you walk from behind Rouse's, back all the way back down to the area on the other end of Paps Road. That drainage is helter-skelter. I mean, some deep places it's 12 foot deep, some places it's 4 foot deep. And where it starts draining and crossing the road is right above Magnolia Bayou. It's got a big pass over right there. I didn't get flooded in Katrina, and I dang sure don't want to get flooded in the future. And these folks have been cited as having places in Louisiana where they caused community flooding with their project, okay? And then wanted to point the finger at the contractor after the fact, per his words, I'm saying, okay? So, yeah, he recognizes that he had an issue, but he wants to blame it on the contractor. I don't think a developer should be able to come in here and sell us all this and then run off and say, oh, yeah, well, the contractor didn't do something. You know, he should be involved for it. So he has a history of not meeting his commitments on that as far as the rest of the community is concerned. And like I said, another thing, with all due respect to the traffic study, your police officers are sitting right over here, the chief of police and his management, the school bus drivers, the fire department, your own collective organization could tell you what kind of impact that has. You don't need somebody running over a couple of rubber hoses in the road to tell you that. Right? Don't let us flood it out. I had a note on here, but the guy that spoke at the planning commission meetings here tonight, he's a subject matter expert on flooding. He showed him, laid out to you, he made some comments on his stuff, and I'm sure he'll have an opportunity to speak. We're definitely against this. And oh yeah, if you can't do nothing else, back off the Paps Road entranceway thing. He says he don't want to do it. I don't want him to do it because that's going to create that cut through for us. We've been doing a lot of complaining. Mr. Black has been catching it. And guess what? The police department comes out and y'all do a great job for about 3 weeks. And it goes right back to where it was. Those high schoolers come through there and other people come through there, our neighborhood, at 50 and 60 miles an hour in a 30 or 25 zone.
Tristan Armour, I'm from Ward 5. I also live in Magnolia Bayou subdivision, and I'm going to dive into what I call technical requirements of the sketch plat. The picture you saw earlier is not the engineered drawing. Okay, I reviewed the engineered drawing that's included in this application. By the way, you know what wasn't included in the application? The deed to the property that connects this property to Spanish Trail. Okay, they didn't include that. In that deed, I looked from a it's misdescribed. I don't think as we sit in this room, they even have legal title to that little square that connects this 19 acres to Old Spanish Trail. I brought that issue up at the Planning Commission. I'm not going to beat that dead horse tonight. What we're going to get into is on their engineered plans. They're required under table 4.2 in your UDC that they shall follow all landscaping, buffering, tree preservation, and street tree requirements listed in this UDC. And if you look at 4.10.2, it states they shall, on any major subdivision like this, comply strictly with that table. Well, if you'll look, they said 50-foot right-of-way. And if you look, you've got in your own UDC a 60-foot right-of-way requirement. 4.6.3 says for moderate density, 60-foot street with tree planter is needed. 4.63, Chapter 4, page 205 of UDC specifically lists R1A as one of the zones that is required to have a 60-foot street with tree planter. Your UDC goes so far as to give them a nice little pictograph. This is your UDC. 60-foot right-of-way. The first 5 on each end is a sidewalk. The next 5 in between is where they must do the tree planting row. They must have, oh boy, my glasses are bad, 9 feet of parking, 10 feet of lane travel, and they mirror it on the other side. This sketch plat, look for yourself, it's 50 foot. That is reason enough alone to drop this. The sketch plat does not meet the minimum UDC requirements. They should be able to toe the line. and put a 60-foot right-of-way and follow the tree plan. And your UDC doesn't just list it once. It lists it again in table 4.2 for R1A. Again, the X's for landscaping, buffering, street trees, and tree preservation. They haven't done any of that in their sketch plan. The developer claims, hey, table 5.1 requires a 50-foot right-of-way. Table 5.1 only applies to 5.2.1L when it says that a street width shown on a major thoroughfare plan, which is not shown therein, shall be no less than the following, and it lists the 50-foot. That's not applicable to this. This is a major subdivision of moderate density, and they must put a 60-foot right-of-way in with the tree planters. That's your UDC. The second part goes to the streets. And again, if you pull up the picture, they have dead ends. Let me read you your own UDC. No half streets, no dead end streets. They have them on the northwest and the southeast. Now, you heard the word hammerhead. The word hammerhead is not listed at all in your UDC. It's not considered in our planning. Instead, what is considered? A cul-de-sac. What does their engineered drawing lack? Any cul-de-sacs. I'm the next neighborhood of Magnolia Valley. We got tree planters, we got 6-foot right-of-way, and we got cul-de-sacs. And they should be required to do the same. They should toe the line. They don't list anything in here about where the bus is going to stop, where the garbage is going to be collected. Your own UDC requires the garbage to be hid behind walls and or buffers. Let's talk about the open green space. They said something about, hey, we've met it. Well, I go by the engineered drawing. And where they've counted and calculated using CAD, what they have for green space goes into the streets, goes into the parking lot, includes the area they're going to build a clubhouse, tennis courts, and swimming pool. Well, let me tell you what your UDC says. No impervious surfaces, buildings, parking lots, tennis courts can be counted for green space. The plat they submitted, signed by their engineer, does not meet the minimum requirements of the UDC because they've overcounted their green space. They're required, there's a table in your UDC. When you do a moderate density subdivision like this, you must have 20% green space. That's a mandatory minimum, and their plat does not meet that. Look for yourself. The buffer that they've drawn, I heard earlier, well, now we're going to agree to change it. But we're here today on the sketch plat as presented. There's no buffer to the conservation area that's the National Park Service. Second, there ain't no buffer where they have the dead-end streets that they're not allowed to have. All right, so when it comes to buffering, they have, your own UDC uses the word the whole perimeter because it's a multifamily development, and that's what's required in your UDC. It fails in that regard as well. I'll leave you with this. The comprehensive plan for Ocean Springs says that this area that they're trying to develop in is predominantly to be used as a single-family residential district. The remaining vacant land in the district does provide the city one of its last opportunities within its present corporate limits to reclaim its character and prevent further loss of natural resources that provide much of the character to Ocean Springs. Planning issues include loss of open space, lack of natural resource protection, loss of community character, connecting the district to schools, recreational areas, cultural centers, and retail shopping with adequate pedestrian ways, bikeways, or other alternatives to the automobile. And lastly, maintaining public safety through traffic calming measures and design encouraging safety and livability. This is a turkey. I use the word toe the line. You know where that comes from? I only learned that this year. It comes from baseball. When the guy steps in the box, his toes can't go over the line. He puts the bat on the ball, he's out. Well, they ain't towed the line. They got 10 toes over. You guys are the umpire, okay? Call them out. That's a hard act to follow. My name is Mark Peterson. I'm in Ward 4. Start by you. And I've been an environmental biologist for about 35 years. And what I want to speak to, besides all the stuff they talked about, which is absolutely true, if you drive down there and you get stuck in traffic, if you need an ambulance or policeman, you're in trouble. Currently, let alone what's going to happen later. But I want to talk about wetlands. There's a bayhead on this property that looks to me, from what I remember from the planning board, will be buried. And their argument is it's not a real wetland, and that's only because of the recent administration. They changed the EPA so it's no longer connected. But in fact, it's less than a quarter mile from a real stream. And the flow of water, if you've been here in a hurricane or a tropical storm, it definitely will go over the tiny berms they talked about that will protect it. And as the first gentleman said from Magnolia, he walked there and there's lots of culverts, so who knows where the water will actually go, probably into other communities. Second thing I want to mention is, and there's not many bayheads that haven't already been buried in this region. The other thing I want to talk about is the pond that even the fellow back here said was a reservoir. So where do you think all the runoff from the cars and the trucks and the garbage trucks that hit the concrete are going to go? They're going to go into the pond, which they're talking about green space. Calling it green space, which say it's not really green space, unless it was really a clean pond. But if you've ever seen stuff leaking out of vehicles, every one of them leaks something, and it's all going to go in that reservoir, effectively. And so I don't know what's going to happen in terms of young kids doing whatever they do there. And so I just want to bring that to your attention, because everybody else is going to talk about the things that you already know are going to be a problem. And I want you to just consider that, because I think it's really important. And like you said, the fellow I followed, about you guys are the ones that can keep the community as good as it is now, let alone down the road, because the more of these things we fill in and concrete over, and it will not be the Ocean Springs, at least we've known since 1994. So hopefully you will consider all of this, and particularly wetland issues. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Nancy Brown Peterson, Ward 4, also in Stark Bayou. And I had the pleasure of circulating a petition among my Stark Bayou neighbors. And I got 63 signatures opposing this subdivision. I emailed that to Alderman Hinton, Pfeiffer, and Blackman, because you guys are the ones that are most closely associated with this issue. Every single person I talked to, the number one thing was, yes, traffic. Everybody said, we can't get out of Stark Bayou now. What's going to happen when we have another 125 apartment complexes competing for our attention? The second most important issue was quality of life and the feel of Ocean Springs. Everywhere along Government Street, from that intersection of Ocean Springs Road and Government, all the way down to Golf Park Estates, there's a whole lot of subdivisions. Every single one of them is single-family homes. So, and generally speaking, people said, yeah, we know that there's a need for housing. What is the matter with not putting this up on Highway 90 in East Ocean Springs, where a lot of these problems are not going to occur? There's already a very nice apartment complex up there. This would fit beautifully up there. One of our residents, who has been in Stark Bayou since phase 1, I don't even know how long he's been there, but since it was first built, he said that every time one of these little subdivisions is built along Government Street, our water pressure goes down. So what's going to happen when we've got 123 new houses using water? And then, of course, there's also the issue of the schools. Many of the people brought up the fact that our schools are already overcrowded, especially the elementary schools. What's going to happen with all those new children coming in? I mean, things to think about. So I would like to respectfully ask for you guys to seriously consider our concerns, preferably vote against this. You would have a lot of very happy residents. I'd also like to request that you perhaps revisit this R1A designation and put it back to R1, which is what it should be. Thank you very much.
Scott Hawkins, Ward 5. I live at 1003 Magnolia Bayou Boulevard. Taught several of your children, lived here most of my life, and have worked for our school system forever, 28 years this year. And, you know, I'm taking a different view on this. I'm looking at our students coming up that, you know, some of them fly away and we never see them again, but a lot of them, we hope, grow roots and come back here. And the first thing I told my kids, and some of yours too, was, you know, you need to buy a house. And if your job here is just to approve this because it fits the zoning, then they're doing us a favor by building what they're building instead of an apartment complex. But they've said it's going to be 100% rentals, and just think of your own children, the people coming up in our system. Do we want them to just rent from this guy that lives out of state and send $250,000 a month to him? Or do we want them to be owners? Because owners take better care of our city than renters do. And so I think we want our children to come back and grow roots in a home they own, and we don't want our city to just become a bunch of rentals. It's already headed that direction, and it has been, and I think this administration should try to slow that down. Let's let people live here, not just visit and not just rent, but let's let people be owners in our town, because those are the ones that take care of it. They're the ones that do the work that's needed to do, like you do. I'm sure you all own your home here. I also wanted to say the traffic study, it is interesting to me that it's at max capacity when we're measuring it. There's only so many cars that can get through those intersections at a time, and they're at max capacity. So you could measure it on a busier day or a less busy day, and I think you're going to get about the same thing, because I don't think they could move any faster through those intersections. So I just think that a study doesn't really show what we already know, that you can't get through there in a hurry because it's all backed up most of the time at the busy times. I hope you will all consider this. The Planning Commission said it was your job to steer this. They said they just get to see if it fits the codes. And they told us that you get to steer the vision of the city with your votes. And I hope that's true. I hope you're not just here to see if it fits the code, because if so, these gentlemen found a gold mine in our city to extract money from our kids. All right, thank you.
Anybody else like to address the board?
Becky Davenport, Ward 1, and he hit upon a lot of things that I was thinking. You know, you've got 123 units. Well, most people have 2 cars. We're adding, I don't know, like 246 extra cars right there at that intersection. And that's something to think about. Another thing I'd like to ask these gentlemen here, do you plan on moving there? Do you plan on moving in there, or would you even consider moving in the place that you're planning to build? I can't see it. Another thing, he's saying $63,000 a year. I don't know about, of course, maybe I make more than that, a lot of us do. Like he touched upon the younger people. Who makes that much money just getting out of school, the young, our own children? That's $5,300 a month. So, and it's rental. You're not helping them. Go out on Highway 90, I just put that all over Facebook. Get out of that little section right there. Relieve the traffic study, not being rude, but don't insult our intelligence by saying that you did a 24-hour study. We're smarter than that. Thank you.
My name is Norma Harrington, and I live at 13 Satella Road, but I'm also representing my family who owns, and I partially own 122 Beverly Drive. And I don't really have to say anything against this. You've heard it all. I have a petition that I had signed by people in my community, and I've submitted it already. I've already said how I felt about all of that. But what I want to know is, I'm going to ask you the question, what are you going to do about the infrastructure? Because you're expecting us to come up here and complain and tell you stuff, and then you guys just rubber stamp it and move on. What are you going to do to improve the situation so we could have it subdivision built there? That's all I have to say.
Anyone else like to address the board?
One more. Derek Charbonnet, 13 Zattel Road, also in Ward 5. What everybody said, I'm not going to repeat any of that. 4 points for me. First and foremost, past boards of the city have made choices that have turned around and cost the city substantial sums of money. Please don't do that again. Even if it's unpleasant, make the right legal choice. Second, 7 of you arguably are sitting where you are sitting because the citizens of the city do not want all of the development that has been taking place over the past 8 years. Figure that into your calculations on this. From a technical standpoint, I do believe the traffic study is flawed because they do not take into account the trains and the traffic. And as near as I can tell from it, I'm not a traffic engineer, they did not account for the fact that Zattel Road is so close to the intersection. Only 4 car lengths. 4 car lengths, and now you can't get out. You have to wait for somebody to stop and let you in. That's it, 4 cars.
Pass.
Pass, excuse me, thank you. When the train is there, man, it backs way up. Yes, it may take a few cycles, I don't know, but that just strikes me as that not counting the train does not adequately give us a good traffic study. On a drainage study, and that needs to include when the turn lane is added, because that's going to affect the drainage around that curve in Government Street. And my last question is, they very politely, they'll put it in, where does that show up on the plat? Where does that show up on the commitment? When does the city require them to do that and to the whole process of putting that turn lane in? Because that is not trivial. That is going to be a huge problem with right-of-ways and drainage all around there, not even to mention who owns that little chunk of property. Don't even want to believe it. I like the city. I've lived here since I was 11, come and gone a few times, but I've been in and out. Development is up to a point is good. Let's make the right choice on this one. I think it's just out of the character of the city. Thank you.
Anyone else like to address the board?
Good evening, my name is Brad McNorton. I'm the VP of Magnolia Bayou, HOA. We have about 125 lots in Magnolia Bayou. In my opinion, it's probably going to represent most of them. I want to use my time to focus on facts, not opinions. The first is arguments against the claim of the developer. The developer states the initial rental rate for the townhome equates to an increase of median home value in the area. What they failed to disclose is how that comparable area is defined. We all know how appraisers should work. If you go neighborhood to neighborhood, you can't just draw 1 mile and draw a circle, right? So if you look at properties from Hanshaw to the railroad track to Government Street, that's about a $500,000 average median home value there. Their $2,000 rental rate corresponds to about $400,000. Now that's going to be coupled to the fact that townhomes appreciate at a 5% gap to detached single-family homes. So that's just going to grow. Okay, so single-family homes appreciated 10%, townhomes 5%. They probably took into account Gulf Park Estates. They probably took into account south of Government Street to arrive at their assessment. Those home values below there are significantly less. In addition, the developer will state, based on current zoning, they are allowed to build twice the amount of townhomes. They can do that. They're soft quoting, doing us a favor. And now this is true. And I believe the city is struggling with this proposition because they know that the existing infrastructure is going to be severely taxed by 123 homes. So instead, if this was zoned R1, which is what it should be zoned, we would have 30 some odd lots. And I don't think we would get any complaints. No residences would complain, the city would not complain. That would not take our infrastructure to 100% or over 100%. I'm not quite sure why it was rezoned. That's a good question, because it looks like spot zoning. I know the original intent back in 1987 to rezone it is lost in time. Maybe somebody who's old school can figure that out. The next I would like to present is facts contained in the comprehensive plan. In the 2010 Ocean Springs Comprehensive Plan, on page 40, there is a map. And in this map, they detail desired use for the land. So on page 40, this tract of land is denoted as conservation tier or forest. That's their desired use for this land. Now, why this doesn't line up with the zoning, I don't know. It's more to the fact that it should be zoned differently than it is now. Now, if you go to the 2045 plan, now this is a draft, obviously, they are calling a new district of Ocean Springs Midtown. The Midtown district ends at Ocean Springs Road. So I think it's marked MLK Road all the way to Ocean Springs Road. We're adjacent to that. We're right there. So for Midtown, the city would like to enhance what is there, not build totally new. They want to enhance what is there so that they bring a better quality of life to the developed and older residences that are there. Because they know when you expand, you're going to affect negatively people that have been there for 30 years. And they don't want to do this. So this is what they're calling Midtown. We're right on the edge of it. They want to enhance. Okay? Not build new. As Alderman, one of your primary responsibilities is to hear your constituents' complaints. Act as our advocate. Everyone here is complaining. There's 150 people here. And that's plenty more that would like to have been here. Whatever you decide tonight, I hope you will be our representative. Act on our behalf, and not on the behalf of the interests of outside parties. Thank you.
Okay, do we have anyone else like to address? Come on up. Yes, sir.
I hear all the background noises, but I have a right to speak, just as everybody else that came up here. The key thing is that everyone has spoken the truth, T-R-U-T-H. 125 times 2, what's that, 252? That's cars. I have a family member that lives on Government Street. We're a death in our family. Ambulance come, fire trucks came, traffic was backed up. I've been out there on Government Street trying to go back in. The train is coming, the train slows down, and people went around me. Police officer was sitting in the line and gave 2 people tickets because they went around because they couldn't go across the railroad track, but they were going totally west. The key thing is, Pep Road is, that's a myth. That road is a myth. It's not bigger than nothing. And you're going to add 252 more cars to it, and talking about putting a turn lane and all that, it just doesn't add up. Thank you so very kind. Have a nice day.
Okay, is there anyone? Yes, ma'am.
Linda Soretta, Ward 5, may know you by you. I would like to ask our aldermen to pay attention to the 150 people that are here that drive these roads every single day. Pat's Road, when we're laughing about it, We all know what it is. It's people getting pulled out of the ditches on both sides. I haven't heard anybody address anything about that. We're talking about the intersection. You rely on the kindness of strangers to let you out. That's all that is. And until we get that addressed, there's no common sense way to go forward with this. I don't know what legal means that we can do to stop this. I don't have the answer to that. Our attorneys will tell us. The developers seem to think that they have a slam dunk here. One of the members told me, there's nothing that's going to impact anybody in here. Well, I disagree with him, and I think there's many people in here that disagree with that. And I would just like to ask our aldermen if there is a way that you delay this to hell and back, do it. And to hell and back means you get the roads fixed on either side. And these gentlemen, if they still want to do it, they sit here to hell and back before we say, okay, we're going to be impacting a lot of people's lives here. It's not a school bus that goes through twice a day. We have 3 or 4 school buses that go by twice a day in my community. So please, let's just use some common sense here, and I'll just ask that y'all listen. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We've allowed several to speak for and against, and I think we need to go ahead and take this time to move on and have make a motion to close public hearing and have a discussion.
I'll make a motion to close public hearing.
Second.
Got a motion by Alderman Pfeiffer, second by Alderman Hinton, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, you would like to have discussion?
Do we have to get a rebuttal period?
Speakers.
We allowed you to speak. I wish you'd have stepped up before we just closed the public hearing. But let us have our discussion, and we might call you up at the. Mr. Blackman, I know you had a few questions you wanted to ask.
I just have a lot of comments. A lot of comments on this. First off, if I put myself in a development's shoes, I wouldn't want to be here with hundreds of signatures, hundreds of emails, hundreds of people pissed off about what I'm trying to do. I wouldn't want to do it, period. And I don't understand the mentality of anybody that wants to come into a community and make this many people mad. There's just no sense. All right, we got so many questions left. Mr. Tristan Armour brought up a hell of a lot of good points. Things that are unanswered, things that are not clear. And I'd like Amanda to come back at some point and address everything that was brought up, from the dead-end streets in the UDC to the buffers not shown, the entryways not shown. I understand all that comes at preliminary plat. I know the process. When you get to preliminary plat, all that has to be addressed. But it's still not shown, and people have questions. I don't believe the traffic study is legitimate. I don't think an 8-hour period gives a true signal or a true sign of what actually goes on there. We all drive this street every day. Everybody in this room takes PAPS or government almost every day somewhere east and west. We know how hard it is to get out of our own neighborhoods, our own driveways sometimes, because of people cutting through our neighborhoods. And I just think this is a horrible idea for this community. I understand the zoning is flawed. We did not zone it R1A. That was done in the 80s. I wish without spot zoning we could change it tonight, but we can't. So we're stuck here for a minute. I don't think we need to move forward with this tonight. And also, when we talk about the drainage issues out there, just as recent as a couple of weeks ago, one heavy rain, Beverly Place ditches had water for days. Days. Doesn't always happen, but it's happening. We know there's issues, we know there's drainage problems, we know our sewer system's taxed out there, and I don't believe our water's far away from it either. One lady brought up the point that every time there's a development, we lose water pressure. That's a fact. That's a fact. So I'm not speaking as Rob Blackman, resident of Ward 5. I'm speaking for the residents of Ward 5 tonight.
And 4.
And 4. And probably some of 6 and 1. This is just, to me, a slap in the face to want to move forward with this many people upset with what you're trying to do. And that's all I have, Bobby.
Anybody else have?
Yeah, I have a few things. Yeah, I went out to the property and walked it, kind of trying to imagine these townhomes there, and I just couldn't see it. And there's just so many questions, as Rob mentioned, you know, the 50-foot right-of-way, it says we're supposed to have 60. The green space is questionable. I know they did a wetlands delineation, but how accurate is that? You know, as an Army Corps of Engineers been out there and actually looked at it. I went online, tried to find a permit, made phone calls, I couldn't find a permit for that. I know that they've done land clearing in the past. So that's another question, are there wetlands out there? Until the Army Corps of Engineers looks at it, that's a concern. You know, I heard the mention of the hammerhead turnarounds, buffer areas, talked about the comprehensive plan, traffic study. I mean, there's so many questions there. As I thought about it here a little bit more, what happens when we have football games? What happens when what happens with the baseball field back there in Woodhaven? Traffic's trying to come out of there. There's just so many concerns with the traffic study. I heard somebody mention that it's a 16-foot Paps Road, 16 foot. Well, I saw in the study it's 20. I should have measured it the other day, but it's definitely not a two-lane road. You know, the character of the neighborhood, the zoning, I just don't see how I'm going to be able to support it. So those are my feelings.
Can I just say one thing before you start, piggybacking on what you said, Steve? The clearing of the lot itself. If you go back and look at the not one, but 2 permits that were pulled to clear that lot, it clearly stated it was for a single-family residence and a fruit and pecan orchard to be planted there. That's how that got approved to be cleared. And now we're here talking 123 townhomes. I'm sorry.
No, please. Yes, I am in agreement so far with Steve and Rob completely. Some things I wanted to kind of point out. We have to do our due diligence because when we fail to do so, that's what puts municipalities at risk. And I don't want to see that happen. I feel that I'm not comfortable approving this tonight. And to piggyback on some comments earlier from Tristan, we have several reasons, in my opinion, to outright deny the right-of-way, the green space, the improper buffers, the loss of natural resources that he mentioned. Another gentleman spoke about the bay heads. Water does not forget. If you remember post-Katrina, the huge ruts that went through some parts of Front Beach where we had closed those in over time, water does not forget. It's not going to forget. This really acts as a secondary, tertiary wetlands type of property. So I'm in agreement with my other colleagues.
Born and raised in this town, seen our town grow. This property has been zoned 40 plus years now for R1A. Our 2010 comp plan shows it still being R1A. Our city has infrastructure issues that need to be addressed for our residents as a whole. As the developer meets all criteria of this development and everything, it is by right, but there's things that they need to do to make it right for our residents, for Ocean Springs. And for the city, we need to ask for studies to be done and to improve our infrastructure in these areas that are concerned to our residents for Ocean Springs. So this is something that I'm going to ask the developers to look at and address for our residents. So that is my comments, and we hear y'all. We hear y'all. Thank you.
Ms. Messenger, you have anything you want to add? Are you good?
Really, they've all
Covered.
expressed everything.
Mayor, I'd like to say something.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I think I've been taking some fairly good notes along the way of every speaker, every issue. I'm not going to recap all of them, but I think that we have too many unanswered questions in order to proceed with this, and I would like to see it tabled.
Okay. I think there are many unanswered questions, and we'd like to get answers from Amanda and engineers alike. I would agree. I'd like to see the same.
I was prepared to do a handout tonight, but I just realized the copier skipped 2 pages, but I'll get that to you all after with some stuff I put together as well.
So we can just take this under advisement.
We'd like to request
if you would
closed discussion, at least for the record.
If you all, council, if I let Mr. Nichols or one of them stand up and give the answers to the questions that were raised.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I would like to give my time to let Mr. Nichols
step on up.
Eric Nichols, I'm the attorney for the applicant. I've also lived here my entire life. I'm a business owner, I'm a property owner. And there's a lot of things we'd like to discuss. One thing I'd like to mention, first and foremost, that constituent complaints are not legal standards. We do have legal standards. This is a sketch plat. This is before this board. If it meets, if it meets the height, density, intensity, and layout, just as the city has worked with them for 6 months, in addition to planning, having approved it unanimously. That's again like, think about Tristan's comments, Mr. Armour's comments. A lot of what he said is just not accurate, and that's why we have engineers, we have traffic study people here too. And it's, I mean, I get it. I've been passionate about property rights my whole life in this town. But I do want to mention, I mean, we do have government here. Government may regulate property, but it also has to follow its own rules. And you got to base decisions on an objective standard, not discretionary politics or opposition. There's been a lot of comments here about the traffic. There's been comments about the infrastructure. There's all these opinions, but there's no, solid evidence or any kind of studies to oppose them. And we actually have provided the evidence. We have provided the studies. These weren't even required in the sketch plat process, but we did provide them. The developer held a town hall to work with the community. They've worked with city staff. They've addressed, they've modified, they've changed every step of this process because of the fact that they want to be a good steward. There's so many things I've heard tonight that I take issue with. One of them being people should own property and not rent here. I mean, when I first bought my first house in Ocean Springs, it was $70,000. And I think that same house sold for $250,000. So just to say that you're going to discriminate against somebody because they want to live in multifamily like what the majority of this country does, again, that's not a legal standard. The legal standards here are, does this meet the zoning regulations right now as it is for sketch plat? Again, we've worked with staff for the last 6 months. Planning has worked with this. This zoning has been there, like you said, for 40-something years. If that was a mistake, I mean, there's a whole legal standard on whether or not, and it's hard to talk when I've got just a ton of people back here.
Please hold down.
We were very respectful listening to y'all, and we asked for the same here. This is sketch plat approval. This is not a rezoning. Is implementation of existing zoning, and any deviation from that would be arbitrary and capricious. And you have to have substantial evidence to show that what we're doing is incorrect for the zoning. And if you don't have substantial evidence, which again would be a study saying otherwise, it is arbitrary and capricious. One thing I would like to do is, I would like to ask him to come up to talk about a couple of things that Mr. Armour mentioned that's just incorrect. And part of that deals with the green space, part of that deals with some of the turnarounds. And also I would like to just mention that the traffic study, this is the same group that the city uses for their own traffic studies. So to now say that they're not qualified or the study was, incomplete here, but it is when the city uses it, that's a whole nother arbitrary decision. So again,
we were not required to do a traffic study at this stage. We went ahead and did it because of the feedback we received from the residents about traffic concerns. The connection to PAPS was at the city's direction, not ours. The level of service that the traffic study shows, it's clearly not at max capacity. If you review the traffic study, and Shane's still here, you can answer questions about that. This is about property rights. It's currently zoned R18, and we meet every bit of the city requirements. We've met, as Eric said, for 6 months with planning staff, and they have told us that. And they have told the planning commission that. To simply come up here with Mr. Armour and put out what amounts to inaccurate information to try and sway you is not only dishonest, it's really unfair. Unfair. We've been here for 6 months. We're not fly-by-night guys. There's nothing in the law. You have many investors, developers from out of town. It's not a requirement to live in the city of Ocean Springs. That doesn't mean anything. Whether you're a resident or not, in terms of the quality of work you're going to do, the responsibility, the ability to work with people. We've done over 100 developments from Texas to Florida. I'd put my reputation up against anyone. In most places, we're the preferred developer. I have references as long as my arm does. And I don't think that's necessary because we're not asking for special favors here. As far as the right-of-way issue, that's been brought up in planning commission, it's been debunked, it's simply not accurate. According to your ordinances, I would defer to Amanda on that issue. In terms of the open space, same thing. We're providing 4.12 acres of open space. If you take away the pond, if you take away the area that my clubhouse is going to be, we're still at about 3 acres. The requirement per your code is 0.97. 0.97 open spaces, acres of open space is required. Even, and I'm not agreeing to the argument, because I believe the 4.12 we're providing is correct, but even in the event it's not, we're still at over 3 acres of open space. This is clearly not the venue to discuss these technicalities. We spent 6 months working on these technicalities, and we have met the requirements of the city. We have offered to meet with each and every alderman to go through this. Each and one of you was given the opportunity to meet with us. In terms of wetlands study is not required by the UDC. We went ahead and do it anyway. We do it on every project. The test is whether there are jurisdictional wetlands per the Corps, per the federal law. I stand here and I am absolutely certain that I am correct in saying there are no jurisdictional wetlands on this property. Now, we can argue what constitutes a wetland. That's been debated in the courts for 30 years. But I'm telling you, we're not impacting jurisdictional wetlands. In terms of the owner versus renter discussion, we've talked about that at the Planning Commission. What we're doing is not going to affect property values. You had one of the gentlemen in opposition say himself, our rental rates equate to about $400,000 per home of value. The median home value within 1 mile of our project is $300,000. Everybody can go in Zillow and everywhere else and look that up. We're way above the median home value on our projects. Lastly, I'm sorry for taking more of your time. We've never said this is a slam dunk. We understand. We're very experienced in what we do. If I may say, we're very good at what we do and responsible. We understand the issues. No one on our team has said anything like that. We've never taken anything for granted, never taken these people for granted. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think we can move on from there. I do want to thank everyone for being respectful to both sides and allowing each other to speak openly and put the information out there. I do want to see us take everything we heard tonight and come back with a decision at the next meeting. I want to make sure every alderman's questions are answered, and any answers, questions that need to be answered need to be done before we vote on this, so.
I'd like
I would like
to
to
say
see us-
we need more time than before the next meeting, because if we're gonna do our due diligence, which we have the lawful authority to do, there's some things that are gonna take more than 2 weeks' time.
Well, if that's the case, Alderman Piper, that'll be fine, but,
Okay.
um,
So
I would hope we can get our answers before then. If not, if there's still questions out there, then we will
Should we
extend
make a
that.
motion then?
Yeah, I mean, you can make a motion if you'd
I'd like
like.
to make a motion to table this for tonight, and that we spend the time to do our lawful authority, considering the impact it's going to have on neighborhoods, consider rezoning. I would like to defer approvals until all of our options are evaluated, and I think it would be prudent for all aldermen to submit questions and concerns to staff right away, so we can get this process going. That's my motion.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Do you have any discussion?
I feel like that we need to, I feel like that we do need to put a timeline on it for at least saying that February 3rd, first meeting, we need to bring back in all information brought back to us to look at. So I think that's something that needs to be considered also.
I mean,
We're
this,
out for a week.
this is just a sketch plat. I mean, the answers that we need should be strictly for that.
For the 3rd.
Yes.
So I'll revise that to
either
say
move forward with the sketch plat or
February
not.
3rd. Okay. Is that all right, Steve?
Yeah, second that.
All right, anybody else have any discussion on that? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Any opposed? Okay, that will be, we'll come back with a decision February 3rd. Is that correct? Thank
And
you.
you all can get your questions into staff and concerns. Yes, missing 2 little pages.
I was
Goes from 2 to 8. I didn't even realize. I was like, that's not what I was trying to show you. I couldn't find it. Thank you. We got a lot of words.
Yeah, the planning commission votes, then it comes to board of aldermen for final decision.
Give everybody a chance to get their questions. Please, all of you that are exiting, please move on. We still have a lot of meeting to take care of. Thank you. Mike, would you mind shutting those doors back there? You got it.
We're gonna go down in this room now. There's body heat.
Body heat.
Probably good. We might have a temperature.
73, 72. Moving on.
All right, where were we?
We are at 6, new business.
I got you. We are on 5.
Public comment.
Agenda public comment.
Need a motion.
We already closed it.
You don't need a motion, you just ask if anybody has agenda.
I've got it, y'all. We under control over here.
Got it.
All right, we're in the agenda public comment. Anyone like to address the board for up to 5 minutes each, for a maximum period of 30 minutes, may do so at this time. Please identify yourself and the agenda item you'd like to speak about.
Good evening, Mayor Board. My name's Ricky Aldermen. I'm from Ward 2. I live at 1111 Albertville Drive. I wanted to discuss 6B, which is the floodway ordinance and discussion and direction. Getting into the floodplain and the flood ordinances is really important for the city, for the rating that we have. There's cities and municipalities that don't have the flood rating that we have. in the city of Ocean Springs, and once we start getting away from that, we can lose that. Today, the home buying process relies a lot on insurance. There's a lot of people that can't even buy the house they want to buy because the insurance is higher than the note that can be brought on by the bank. The floodplain managers for the city of Ocean Springs have worked very hard to get a freeboard-based establishment here. I would like to have seen it at 2. I think we're at 1.5 there. But 1.5 is better than what a lot of people are doing. But I did prepare something, and I want to put it in the minutes. I just want to read you this on the points on why I think that the board should really consider not to mess with the flood area. Flood zones exist for a reason. They are areas that are known to flood. These rules are not meant to be difficult or unfair. They are not meant to protect people, and they are meant to protect people and property. Flood water will go where it goes regardless of plans or intentions. And I want to say my comments are not based on any particular property owner. It's on a whole for the ordinance. If an exception is granted for one property, it sets a precedence. Others will expect the same treatment. Over time, the rule stops being a rule and becomes a suggestion, making it harder for the city to enforce standards fairly and consistently. Flooding affects more than just one property owner. It impacts neighbors, emergency responders, roads, utilities, and public services. When flooding occurs, the city and first responders are often the ones who must step in. The risk does not stop at the property line. How the city enforces flood rules can affect insurance costs for the entire community. That's the whole city, not just the people we make the exceptions for. Inconsistent enforcement can lead to higher flood insurance premiums and increased scrutiny from federal agencies affecting many residents, not just one. Building smarter or higher may reduce damage, but it does not eliminate the flood risk. Access can still be blocked and evacuations can still be dangerous. The safest option is to avoid building in a flood-prone area when alternatives exist. Flood maps are based on past data and may not fully account for heavier rain, stronger storms, or changing drainage patterns. Areas that are marginal today may become higher risk in the future. There are reasonable alternatives. Structures can be moved outside the flood zone or flood-prone areas, and they can be used for open and non-living space. These options protect both the homeowner and the community while following established rules. I'm respectfully asking that the board uphold the flood hazard rules as they're written. These rules exist to protect the people, the property, and the city itself. Requiring construction outside the flood zone is not a punishment, it's a prevention. And this is what I'd like to put in the minutes. The thing is with insurance, from a state level and even a congressional level, they're combating trying to get these flood rates down. Every year there's a cap of, I believe, 18% that they can increase until full risk assessment is in place, which means that whatever that rating is where that full risk is going to stop. So I understand, and like I said, this is not about any particular owner. It's about, once you set a precedence, you got to do it for a lot of the people, and we just need to maintain that rating that we've worked hard to get. And I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else like to address the board? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Liddy Miller. My address is 7616 Trout Street, Ward 6. I am actually the resident who kind of started this whole monkey in the barrel, if you will.
The flood ordinance, or?
Correct, the floodway ordinance, yes ma'am. And just to clarify some things that Mr. Onamont was speaking on, the item on the agenda is for the floodway. This is not for a flood zone. There is a difference. The ordinance for the city states that there should be no construction in a floodway, period. this ordinance was enacted, I couldn't tell you the exact date, but it's been that way. I know Mr. Darrell, they enacted that ordinance to get these flood ratings down, completely understandable. Where the issue lies is the city of Ocean Springs came through and did an annexation all through my ward. Just rough numbers, there are about 35, 40 residents that have been recently annexed that are in this floodway. Before this annexation took place, there were 2 residents in Ocean Springs that had a partial piece of their property in the floodway. So what we're doing is we're just trying to get some help here for these individuals that have been recently annexed. And so we can use our properties to their full potential. We've got some homes that are completely built in them already. And then we have some properties that are not developed that potentially could be, that per the ordinance, they cannot. Just to kind of give you some detail on that, myself individually, my husband and I purchased this property in 2021, I believe. And we went through the county, got our building permit. Obviously, the ordinances are a little bit different through the county. Basically, in order to build in a floodway, you have to have what's called a no-rise certification. An engineer goes out, makes sure whatever material or obstruction or anything that you're doing is not going to impede that the rise of the floodwaters within that floodway. The county recognizes this, FEMA recognizes this, the city does not. The reason the city does not is to get that flood rating down for the rest of the city. The problem here is that all of these new constituents are now being punished from an annexation that basically the due diligence was not done by the city for these properties that are now deemed useless. The value of my property that I own has been significantly decreased. As it stands now, I cannot sell my property and I can't build on my property. If any home within the floodway is damaged more than 50%, they cannot rebuild. Obviously, they would have the opportunity to come to the city, file for a variance for quote-unquote hardship. But I can tell you right now, none of these people want to have to go through that to try to have to rebuild their home after a flood, fire, wind, whatever it may be. So I just wanted to come up here and clarify that it's not a flood zone we're talking about. Excuse me. It's the floodway. There is a difference. And if there's any more questions, I'll be happy to get back up here, but I have a lot of information if y'all need it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to address the board?
I would.
Yes, sir.
My name is Lance Noble. I live in 411 Becker Boulevard in Ward 3. But I also own property at 7704 Trout Street. About 10 years ago, my wife and I bought 3 lots in what was called the Fish and Fun subdivision, which is a platted, approved, been on record for about 60 years. And all the requirements of that subdivision have been met as far as square footage of houses and so forth and so on. A few weeks ago, I saw, well, in November actually, I saw a sign of a zoning hearing on the property next to us, which actually belongs to the Millers, Ms. Miller who just spoke. So I called the number and they said that the purpose of the hearing was because they had been denied a building permit. And, several years ago, they had a lot of dirt brought in. I talked to the contractor. Some of y'all remember J.C. Brake is his grandson, Jeremy. He hauled all this dirt in, and I wanted to get him to do some work for me on my property. And he said, well, they gotta let this dirt settle for a while, the foundation. So I said, well, maybe this is because the foundation hadn't settled enough, they denied the permit. Well, I come to the meeting, and, well, it's because once we have been annexed into our property there, we are now subject to this floodway ordinance that is different from what we were subject to when we were part of the county. I think Mr. Stringfellow explained that night that if you were in the floodway, your property, and it was more than 50% damaged, you could be grandfathered in to rebuild there, but if your property had areas that were not in the floodway, you would have to move. You couldn't repair if it was more than 50%. You couldn't repair, or you couldn't replace. You'd have to move it. Okay. So I was mighty concerned. We had bought that property as an investment. I took the money out of my 401k, and our son has lived there for the time that we've owned it. I was concerned that this is going to adversely affect the value of our property. So I go to the tax assessor's office in Pascagoula, and I said, I'd like to know, where my property is relative to the floodway and flood zone and so forth. He printed out a picture of the property, and I'd like to share this with the council.
Please do. You just pass it right there. Yeah.
If you see here in the photo, this large white building, that was one time the Hygiene Crab Company. The lots we bought were owned by Mr. Bob Tyler and his family. They built this house, which is the brown roof just to the right of the large building. That was the residence they built in the 60s, and his family lived there. I'm the second owner. After he and Miss Tyler died, I bought it from their estate. But since the 60s, he's had this house here and had the crab factory. I talked to people whose mother would pick crabs there at the Hygiene Crab Company. But anyway, so we own 2 acres there. If, according to the map that they pulled up at the tax assessor's office, the floodway goes right through our house. You can see the dotted line. It goes right through the property that the Millers own. Okay? So I'm explaining this to the gentleman at the tax assessor's office. He said, well, if something happened and my house is damaged, I'm going to have to move it back to this area here, the flood zone. The south of my house is a flood zone. North of the house is the floodway, okay? Well, the tax assessor pulls it up and he said, well, that's funny. He said, the property from your house to the bottom, the elevation is 6 feet. But south of your house, the flood zone is 4 feet. So I said, yeah, and they're telling me now if something happens to my house, I've got to move from the 6 feet elevation to a floodway, 4 foot elevation. And I'm going to quote him. He says, that doesn't make any sense. I said, let me tell you something else that doesn't make any sense. We were told at the meeting that the reason they adopted this ordinance was to satisfy FEMA that no structure in the floodway would impede the floodwaters flowing out. Okay? Well, common sense again will tell you, if you have a structure in the floodway that would impede the water coming out, it's also going to impede the water going in. So if it impedes the water going in, you're going to have less coming out. So it's every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. He agreed with me on that point as well. So I'm asking y'all, as he said, that doesn't make any sense. I'm asking y'all to use some common sense and say, hey, because I can see FEMA's rule about the impeding the outflow being in a place like the Mississippi River or one of these rivers in California where the floods, but the Fort Bayou doesn't flood from up here. It comes from the Gulf. So I mean, if anything, we're putting more structure down here to stop the water from going up. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else come on? Yes, sir.
My name's Reese Brand. I live at 285 Holton Boulevard, Ward 3. I'm on the agenda for the appeal for the tree removal. Kind of just wanted to put my face in the name. I'm the new homeowner. This was my grandmother's property. Kind of speaking earlier, I'm trying to set my roots back where I'm from. Got my education. I'm trying to make my city great. But with this tree, I know it seems kind of brash and hard to remove the tree. It does not come lighthearted. I have discussed with my tree surgeon, Daniel Klain, explaining the issues with the tree. I have battled with insurance agents. I have talked to 3 insurance agents that have all said that this tree is a point of liability and contingency. I have discussed removing the garage, but that also goes into you reaching into me and saying what I can do with my property. Not saying that's what y'all are doing. And I brought my father here as the historian of the property, stating the age of the tree as he was there when the tree was planted. The tree is roughly 63 years old. And I'm just here for any questions y'all have when the subject comes up. That's it.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address the board on an item listed on the agenda?
My name's Tony Miller, 9108 Dixie Street. One of the questions I have, talking about the floodway, is our concern is if we make a alteration to the ordinance that insurance rates are going to increase, flood insurance rates for the city. My question is, FEMA's own guidelines state that if we build in a floodway and we meet these requirements to have a no-rise certificate, and the engineer says this is not going to affect flood waters in any way. If that applicant meets those requirements, how is it that FEMA's going to come back and say we're going to increase the insurance rates for your city? It doesn't make sense. So why would FEMA have these guidelines stating that if you're going to build in a floodway, these are the guidelines you have to meet? The county accepts it, federal government accepts it. The city of Ocean Springs is saying, whoa, wait a minute. We want lower rates. Has it given us lower rates? Has that affected our rates? I live in our own property that's partial inflow. It doesn't affect me, thankfully. I'm in a back of my property's flood zone. The floodway portion of my property is marsh. It's 400 feet back, so that doesn't affect me. But I live in this area that's been annexed. I grew up here in Ocean Springs. Heart and soul here. I own 2 businesses here. I own property, commercial and residential property. What happens in the city greatly concerns me and my family. I don't want flood insurance rates to increase. But the millers aren't doing anything or asking for anything that should increase flood rates. If we're going to amend the ordinance, then my question would be, if we're amending that, let's follow FEMA guidelines. FEMA guidelines already state, meet A, B, C, D, whatever the case may be, as long as you're meeting these requirements, then you're okay to build here. So why is FEMA gonna say, you're okay to build here if you meet these requirements, but we're gonna raise your rates? So, does anybody have any answer to that?
I actually do have an answer for that. And Daryl, you can back me up on this because you're currently, and I've been a floodplain manager in the past. And I'm very familiar with the CRS program that we participate in and the discounts that we receive. Now, we are what, a class 7 now, or are we back at 6?
We're at 8.
We went to an 8, okay. We went as low as a 5, which gives around a 20%.
What is 5, better, worse?
Better. Lower the better. When I was in Daryl's office, we got down to a class 5. Class 5 is almost unmanageable because of all of the data entry and different things you have to keep up with and make sure on a daily basis almost that you're meeting all FEMA criteria. All right? Am I overstepping?
No,
I just want to make sure. As a class 8, we probably receive somewhere around 7-8% discount.
10%.
across the board. Everybody that participates in flood insurance gets about a 10% discount. If we don't go by their guidelines and we make exceptions to certain rules, they can come in and pull that program from us. That's the increase. It's not going to be just an arbitrary increase of rate. They're going to pull us out of CRS. If they do that, everybody with flood insurance loses 10% discount. Even if it's one property. And I've seen this almost happen in Pascagoula with a home just for having a toilet below the base flood elevation. They had to go in and make them remove that toilet, plug the plumbing, because it was below the BFE. So that's the quick, dirty answer.
Sure.
It all boils down to the CRS program.
Okay.
And the discounts received. It's not like they're gonna come in and cut, right, Daryl? That's still how it goes, right?
And it's not that, like, for example, what we've done with the floodway this was a way to meet the regulatory map standards higher than FEMA. They reward you for that. So basically, it's not that we're gonna lose our insurance, it's basically we stand a chance of a 5% increase if they have the change. In other words, if they decide to change the floodway ordinance, do away with it and go to the FEMA standards or whatever, when we go back, that could change us from an 8 to a 9, which would increase 5%.
Okay, I've heard two things. I've heard will and I've heard could.
Could, possibly.
Most likely, I'm gonna change my statement to most likely, they will come in when they do their audits. They
Hey,
do an audit.
Rob, let's hold up right here. Go ahead and make your statements. This is just for public comment. We're gonna be you'll have a chance to get these questions answered. They'll be able to address us.
So I've heard that if we don't follow FEMA guidelines, our insurance could go up. That makes sense to me. Makes sense to everybody in this room and everybody in the city. We're not asking not to follow FEMA guidelines. We're asking to adhere to FEMA guidelines. The Millers are adhering to FEMA guidelines. They jumped through every hoop that they were supposed to. Anybody in this room that buys property in our area that's in a floodway will do the exact same thing. We're not asking for an exception. We're asking to look at our floodway ordinance and say, hey, is this fair? Is this something that is affecting everybody in the city? No, it's affecting us. It's affecting, was it Ward 1, Ward 6 out here, Julie and Steve's ward. We're asking for, let's follow FEMA guidelines. We're at an 8. What's Jackson County at? An 8.
9.
8.
They're the 9.
You told me an 8 last time.
I messed up, I just.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. But we're not asking to not follow the guidelines at all. That's my point, is they're not asking for an exception. They're asking for, we are going to follow FEMA guidelines and apply for this permit. It should be approved. That's my comment, is I'm looking at it from a more of a practical standpoint.
And the big picture is, though, like you said, this floodway ordinance is above and beyond FEMA.
Fair.
And that's the requirement to get the additional discount. We take that away, we lose the discount, period. So yes, that will make the discount go down if we lose our class 8 to a 9.
Fair. Prior to the annexation, you had 2 properties that were partials. Now you have a whole nother class of residents that live, breathe, and work and own property in Ocean Springs. We should be considered. We should be considered just as much as everybody else out here off the path. You know, we're not, whatever, I'm not going to bring up old stuff. Yeah, we're part of Ocean Springs as well. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Anybody else like to address the board? Come on up, Bill.
I'm Cody Crane from 7800 Trout Street. I'd like to speak on my flood ordinance. Thank you, Mayor and Board, for letting me speak. I moved here in 2011. Didn't know anybody when I got here, just had to make life for myself, but I knew one day I'm gonna, be able to move back home with my family, see my grandparents, my family, my parents. And I've sunk my life savings into my home. That is my move home money. That is how I get to go back to my family one day. Spend my life savings on it, and my whole property is in this zone. So, for me to be able to sell that house, it would take someone with no sense and didn't need a bank. Like, my property's worth zero. No bank's gonna loan on it. I can't sell my home that I've spent my entire life savings on. And there's nowhere to move it. My whole property's in a zone. I didn't do one thing outside the guidelines. I followed every rule. I got my permits. There is nothing I did wrong. I didn't ask to be annexed. I bought a property in the county. I've had Ocean Springs address, it was in the county though. But now that I've been annexed, my property tax has gone up, lost a garbage can, and my home is worth nothing. How is that fair? That's unjust. That's a hardship that none should have to go through. And whenever y'all are thinking about this ordinance, I want you to think about, you know, me and my family, my kids. Like, that's a life-changing amount of money that I've sunk into this place, knowing that we were promised we got annexed, our property value's gonna go up. You know, it's a good thing. You get annexed in the city, yeah, you pay a little taxes, but your property value's gonna be worth so much more. No, and I know it was an unforeseen thing, but to do that to 40, 50 people, families, it shouldn't be allowed. We gotta do something about this, so please take into consideration, you know, the lives that are affected by this, that we're not asked. You know, we didn't ask for it. It's what it is, and something has to be done. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Cody. Anyone else like to address the board? All right, yep, one more.
Evening, my name is Chris Burns, I live at 7613 Trout Street, in the property next to all these nice folks whose homes have been completely devalued to nothing. And our entire street basically ruined because of it. The Fishing Fund neighborhood is gone. That's nothing for them according to this flood map that has something to do with an insurance company that likes to force their will and what they want to do on us, the people, with our things and our time and our homes and our cars and everything else that we are forced to purchase their services for. Will they continue to erode our rights? Will they continue to erode our lives, steal our savings? These are the insurance companies that we're protecting, that we want so desperately a discount from. I think it's sad. The flood map doesn't actually affect us. It does affect your emergency services. That flood map goes directly over the boat ramps that are in our neighborhood, that your DMR has used time and again to come through our driveway and into these neighborhoods, launched their 20, 30, and 56-foot boats to go help people in need during these storms, right? So when you talk about what you're going to do to affect our developments, it does affect us, and it affects you too, very, very much so. I moved here from Nashville in 2015, and I rented a home that wasn't far from where the apartment complex that you guys are discussing earlier was going to happen, and my parents' neighborhood is now. I moved out of that neighborhood. It kept ruining my skateboard areas because even on dry days, the ground is so wet that it picks up all of the water and it just rusts them out. Couldn't figure out what was going on. Living all over the world, I've never seen anything like this place rust things. It's really kind of cryptic. When I moved down here, I fell in love with this place. And I had a dog that I loved, and I just said, I'm gonna buy her the biggest yard that I could find. So I did, and I bought this little 100-year-old camp, whatever it was at the time. Guys could fix up a little bit. And big piece of property. We ran around on that a whole bunch, and we really love it out there. I don't know that I have any plans of developing it in the future. Yes, this absolutely affects that as well. We are gonna put thousands hundreds of tons of mass, right? Concrete, waterways, piping, all of those things back here. When that comes in, it takes over that. We do occasionally cruise up and down Bayou though, and I don't know enough about the area, but I am very surprised that our properties and layouts and the elevations that I see from both the water level and where our home is when we're out on boat, that all the homes down at the end of Ocean Springs, Lover's Lane, from there all the way up to the bridge and then some, I don't know how those properties aren't affected by this flood zone also. How is it possible? Some other folks said a couple of things about, made good points about the water and flooding and things that happened back there. The first time that water touched my house in a storm, it came from the street side, not the bayou side. We were watching the bayou come up in the front yard, went out to skimboard in the front yard, which is something I've never done before. That was cool. But it came from the back. It came from the city. It came from all of the stuff that was supposed to be there to protect us in the floodways. And it failed, right? So, you guys are here. You're not just here to rubber stamp something or look at something and say, hey, does this meet this code? Very obviously, you're elected officials and you're here to represent the people. I'm really impressed with my neighbors and everybody who's come stood out here tonight. I love living in this community and now I'm never leaving, but we got to do something to take care of all of us.
Thank you. Is there anybody else like to address the board? If not, we're going to move on to new business. We reschedule February recess meeting. We didn't have a public hearing.
Oh, sorry.
We're going to entertain a motion to reschedule February recess meeting due to Mardi Gras.
I've got a prepared motion if anybody wants to have any discussion first.
They go ahead and make your motion, Rob.
Well, Rob, that's going to be on the floodway?
No,
this is
on the
new business.
new business. Motion to authorize rescheduling of the February 17th, 2026 recess meeting of the Board of Aldermen to Wednesday, February 18th, 2026 at its regular time and place due to Mardi Gras Day in accordance with ordinance 2022-01 and direct staff to publish the required legal notice as prescribed by the ordinance.
Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Blackman.
I'll second.
Second by Alderman Pfeiffer. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Hey,
Ayes have it.
it's on Ash Wednesday, it's more important than Mardi Gras to me.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Okay, so we'll move on to 6B. Now we have our discussion on the floodway ordinance.
I have a different angle on this floodway ordinance that I looked at. I prepared a little handout, but the gist of it is, we've never had a city board that's a volunteer board that is an ultimate authority on anything. They're always an advisory board. This ordinance was created in 2020, and so being on ZAB, I can tell you this is the first time it's come into play, and we shouldn't have a board as a volunteer board as the ultimate authority. I think I gave my thing away. But if you look on the last page, I've come up, I got it, with some recommended amendments to this where we did clear it up, that the zoning board shall hear variance requests and appeals under the ordinance and shall forward a written recommendation including findings of fact to the Board of Aldermen. The Board of Aldermen shall serve as the final administrative authority for approval, denial or modification of any variance or appeal under this ordinance. Any person aggrieved by the final decision of the Board of Aldermen may seek judicial review in the circuit court as provided by law. And then I also just put another recommendation that just simply states that ZAB acts as an advisory capacity only and does not exercise a final governing authority. And I think that that is an important caveat because anything that is determined by ZAB, I can foresee it going to a court system, and they would first inquire, where do your elected officials weigh in on this? And they didn't. So I would like to recommend we amend at least that part of this ordinance to make the Board of Aldermen the final authority on that.
I think you might have just stole Amanda's thunder, that's what she was going to do.
I had already written,
Good.
I wrote to her about it.
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
I had kind of the same,
Well, haha, I
same
got it out
thoughts
first.
on this.
Wait a minute, y'all beat me to it.
Yeah, but I think we may need to work towards a workshop to actually go through the entire ordinance. And I totally agree with putting it back with the board and not just the ZAB board, as far as the, governing body to make the final decisions on this, because ZAB does not need to be the one to do it. I totally agree with that. But I think, with all the points made, like I said, yeah, these people didn't, sign up to be annexed. I get it. And, but we do have rules to follow. If we can make changes to accommodate, great. But I think we need to sit down, review this ordinance as a board collectively.
Yeah.
And, have Daryl involved as our certified floodplain manager, and see what tweaks could possibly be made without costing the entire city at least a 5% increase in their flood insurance. If there's a way to do it, great.
Grandfathering or something to consider.
And we may need to, this guy that used to come around and do the cab visits all the time.
It ain't as easy to do that as it used to be.
But I'm sure we can get a hold of somebody with,
I've reached
with
out
NEMA.
to ask the questions, to try to get a true value of how much this would have.
Right.
I can't even get them to respond.
Well, what's the guy's name that did the cab visits? Scott.
Are you saying CAD?
CAV, CAV.
What
It's
is
a
that?
community assessment visit that they do every 5 years, every 5 years. To check, that they come in and do a complete audit of all of our files. They check elevation certificates on new construction, older construction, and make sure everything's in compliance. And then they also check all these items that we have to keep on record to stay in the program and maintain a class. I think it would be worth at least reaching out to them and the Mississippi floodplain CFM group and see what they would recommend as, another ordinance or amended ordinance. Or end of the day, we got to back you and the citizens as a whole, and we just need to see what we can do to make this right.
I have to advocate for my ward.
Fix and say, Miss Julie,
My
if
ward,
you would like to
and
address this.
as several persons have stated, they did not ask for this. It was approved through the county for the Miller's building permit. So by right, they should be able to build accordingly. And if this was not looked at prior to annexation, that is no fault of theirs. As a city, we should make it right and do the right thing and make a change to the ordinance and amend that to not just allow the Millers to build, but as Mr. Crane had stated as well, the value of his property is completely worthless. I can't sit here and listen to him speak that and not make a change. And unfortunately, I don't want others' insurance to rise, but there's a cost of annexation, and I don't want the cost to fully lie on the persons in the annexed area. I was elected to advocate for them, and I intend to do so. And I think it's the right thing to amend this to allow all of those persons in that area to maintain their rights to rebuild according to the FEMA guidelines, as these houses have been there, some of them, someone said since the 60s, and obviously that's not adversely affected anyone for that property. That looks to be a pretty large house or business as it was. I think it's very reasonable for them to ask to build their home as they desire.
Thank you.
I have a question, Mayor.
Go ahead, Steve.
So I guess this is to Rob or Daryl. What is the big difference between a floodway and then a flood zone?
The floodway is considered a channel of moving water, basically like a river, in a river, whatever. That's the way they define it. A floodway would be rise and fall water. It's not
Flood
actually
zone.
just running water. is
So
what they're looking at.
the
This was-
houses that are already built, that are in a floodway zone, they're still able to get flood insurance. So the annexation, does that affect them in a way? The houses that are already built?
You could have a house in a floodway. It doesn't affect you getting insurance. It doesn't affect you buying and selling a house, any of that. The only time that you got a problem is if your house is 50% more damaged.
So it'd be a non-conforming home?
If it's 50% more damaged, then you have to bring it into compliance. Compliance would be our adopted flood ordinance that you would have to, which would state that you couldn't actually do it. At that point, you could apply for the variance, and then that would be where y'all change it to where y'all hear it and make the decision.
But the houses that are already in floodway or flood zones, they're all non-conforming,
Non-conforming,
meaning the 50%.
well, yeah,
Not
it's,
necessarily.
that's a hard one to say whether or not non-conforming. I'm not, the county law says, a non-conforming house to me would be one that doesn't meet the flood requirements. Is that what you're asking?
Well, I'm trying to determine if the houses that everybody mentioned here, are they all in a non-conforming situation? Because I live on the bayou, and my house is considered non-conforming. In the event the 50% rule applies also.
And yours is probably an A zone, correct?
Yes.
And yours probably is below the BFE.
13, we're at 12, 13.
Okay, and that goes back to the ordinance, that was the other thing. You were at 13, and that for you to meet FEMA's requirements, you would have to go back to 13. But with the ordinance, we've got a 1.5 foot freeboard, so you would actually have to be 14.5 feet. So say your house received 50% damage, you would have to go to 14.5. Even though you're at 13, you meet FEMA. We actually went above. We cannot do less than FEMA, we can do more. The doing more was part of the reasons to get the points for the CRS. So the only way you could change that is if you just took your whole ordinance and just totally whatever FEMA did, you can tweak it. Whatever we adopt, we have to follow. Whatever FEMA does, we have done what we adopted and was voted on. Anything that changes that would have to be to change ordinance.
Pretty complicated.
It's very complicated. I still think we need a workshop.
Floodway?
For now, Mr. Lance, just hold on, this is just strictly.
I still think we need a workshop to look at this ordinance to move forward with, they didn't ask for this, and we need to find a way to make this right.
With the city attorney.
I agree.
Absolutely.
A workshop.
I think Daryl needs to be here, and we need to really review this thing inside and out and figure out what will and what won't cost us.
Amanda, right now, the ZAB tabled this particular item.
Correct, yeah, there was 4 motions.
That'll just be suspended until, if we were to go this route or something?
Right, what was directed was, there's a list of, I think 14, 15 different items that they could bring back to be considered a hardship for them to basically make a decision. So it was tabled, a date was not set.
Okay.
That's where we're at right now.
All right, thank you.
So what we need to address is definitely amend the ordinance to put the process back where it should be. They should be an advisory committee and the decisions made by the board. So that definitely has to be addressed. While we're doing so, let's do a complete workshop
I would
and
like
see
to.
what we can come up with all the other issues. I think that is very much what we need to do.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to schedule a workshop to discuss amending the floodway ordinance under the city ordinance to allow for construction within the floodways when supported by a FEMA certificate.
How about just a work session to review the floodway ordinance?
I like the way she said it.
Either way.
I like fingers.
Okay, we got a motion?
I'll second it.
Got a second by Alderman Tillis, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, do we have a date that we'd like to have it?
As soon as possible.
Agreed.
Okay, we'll
After the
put
mill.
that on Miss
Put
Lori.
that on the calendar. so
Miss
that-
Lori, that'll be on you.
Can you send us some-
Date for that workshop. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so we're gonna have the workshop when Miss Lori figures it out. Okay, we'll move on to consent agenda. Does anyone have anything to pull from the consent?
I have E.
Item E,
We'll take F.
Take you.
E, F, hang on. It's not going good. Okay, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda with
So
the
moved.
exemption of item E,
I'll
F,
second.
and U? Got a motion by Alderman Hinton, second by Alderman Pfeiffer, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, ayes have it. So item E,
I just wondered, should this have been two separate event permits? Is it written as one permit?
it is really
It's two separate dates.
It's two separate items on the, whatever, on the calendar. As
Okay.
far as that, it's just one, the Carnival Association, that, and we just put it as their events, is why it's as one.
Okay.
And it'll be two separate, is what you're saying? Or
Well, it's two separate events.
Two separate permits though, or one?
Two separate
It's two
applications.
separate applications.
Okay.
two separate events. And just-
And, was it added because they were late getting it in, or what?
No, it was done back in March, and it just,
Slipped by.
it slipped by, and it came to attention this week.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to approve E.
All right, got a motion by Alderman Stennis.
Second.
Second by Alderman Blackman. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Item F,
Okay, that's me. I pulled this because it's December 2nd minutes, and we're outside of the municipal code 211533. I brought up minutes before. We have to be more timely with them, and the code says whichever comes first, 30-day period has to be done, or the next meeting. We missed both of those. So that's why I pulled it, because we got to get these minutes in under the time frame we're supposed to.
I think that had a lot to do with this one, Alderman Pfeiffer, with the holidays, and they just kind of threw it off.
But I'll make a motion, I guess, to approve them.
Okay, we got a motion by Alderman Pfeiffer,
Second.
second by Alderman Stennis. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, item U.
All right, we got several trees that we're looking at cutting down, and nothing against Daryl, just had some concerns on some of the trees. Guys, I'm retired, I got a little bit more time, so I drove around, got to look at the trees we're cutting, and went out to the West Cherokee Glen, and there's an oak tree out there that we're looking at cutting down, and I had some concerns on whether or not it actually needed to come down. It looked pretty healthy. It's 10, 12 feet up. It's not in the pathway, and I see that they want to take it down. I talked to the owner, and he basically said what they want to do is take that tree down so they can get access to the back of the yard to build another building back there. So I really don't see that there's anything wrong with the tree. It looks pretty healthy, and it, like you said, it's growing straight, and it took an angle, and I guess it's growing sideways, looking for some sunlight, but it couldn't because of all the other trees.
Yeah, that's when I looked at it, it's possibly what, maybe that big around.
That's like,
It's,
it's
you know,
probably,
somewhere that generally.
yeah.
But it's actually gone over back to the ground, arched. But that's when I looked up, you got a large magnolia and a large live oak.
Right.
And that's what's causing this trying to get out from under that. The tree's never gonna do anything but just go back towards the ground.
Yeah, well, basically what
I
it
don't
does.
feel that would get any size
Yeah,
to
it
it.
goes straight up about 10, 12 feet, and then it makes a turn. But at no point that I see it's trying to go back down. Looks like it's trying to find sunlight. So I had some concerns of whether or not we actually want to cut that tree down.
Well, I was just looking at that, is already, you can actually plant trees too close, get them too big, where the ones that's not actually getting adequate sunlight will never mount anything. That's the way I looked at that, but, you know, I'm good with whatever.
Yeah, it's the gray area, so, what do you think?
I'm good with whatever. I said removable. I'm good with it. Y'all want to keep
Okay,
it?
I'm gonna go with your recommendation then.
So you want to make a motion to approve item U?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve item U, the 119 West Cherokee Glen.
All right, got a motion by Alderman Tillis, second by Alderman Wade, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Okay, ayes have it. All right, department reports. Docket of claims. Does anyone have any questions on the amended docket of claims? If not, do we have a motion to
I'll
approve
make
the
a
docket?
motion to approve payment docket of claims. All expenditures are appropriate and authorized by law. Spread the summary upon the minutes.
Got a motion by Alderman Blackman, second by Alderman Pfeiffer, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Monthly budget report. Does anyone have any questions on the monthly budget report? If not, is there a motion to accept the monthly budget report?
Make a motion to accept the monthly budget report.
Motion by Alderman Blackman. Second by Alderman Hinton, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Building, discuss tree appeal for tree removal request at 285 Holcomb, previously denied at Board of Aldermen meeting. Darrell, you want to address this one?
This was the one that we wanted more information from the homeowner on whether or not the insurance company wanted it removed or trimmed. He spoke earlier, and he's here.
Okay. I know the last time it came through, it was stated that the insurance company was going to deny them, but we requested more information on that denial. Since then, you did send a letter in to the board stating that it was denied or canceled, actually, because of the tree.
Yeah, he actually submitted more paperwork, and he also had McLean, Denny McLean, who I looked at it, and he acknowledged the bad spot in the trunk itself also.
Well, I also like to come up and address.
Yeah. So there's kind of three prongs of this problem with this tree. First, we'll bring up insurance. So as y'all stated, insurance was already due to the limb not being trimmed. There is a 30-day reinstatement period that we are currently in, and that's kind of the rush to get this approved in some way. So I can't have insurance on this home. The problem with trimming just the limb is basically the physics of the tree. If we're not going to even bring up the cavity that's in the tree, that second prong I want to bring up. Just the physics of the tree, if you remove that limb, it's one of the heaviest limbs in the tree. So if you remove that limb, you're going to have to balance it on the other side. And by the time you do all the balancing and trimming on this tree, you only have a trunk that won't be viable. So the logic is, if I just trim it, I'm eventually going to have to remove the whole tree. And so I'll be paying double for having this tree removed. The second problem with this tree is the cavity that I've added to this appeal. Speaking with Danny, that is cause root rot. It brings down to the core of the tree. It eventually will cause a safety hazard of falling in a tree during a storm. And the third prong, as I've already stated before, the insurance is they're requiring it to be removed. I have asked them to remove the structure from the policy. They said with the siding being wrecked, that's one of their conditions of a pre-existing condition, so the structure can't be removed. I've talked to two other insurance agents, and they also said this tree is a point of contingency. One of them asked for removal. I have no letters on that. It's a phone conversation. And the other one was it's going to be another battle that we're in now with trimming the limb, going back to having to balance the tree. So those are the three main points of concern with this tree, and that's what's causing me to ask for removal.
I believe it
Hold on, Rob, you got a question?
I went and looked at it, and if it falls on the shed, it's gonna mess the shed up. If you don't do anything and it falls on the house, it's gonna get two items, the house and the shed.
I
So,
would like that not to happen.
yeah, I mean, it's an act of God. So I hate to see any tree get cut down, but, I'd like to make a motion to go ahead and approve you to get the tree cut.
I'll second your motion. because
Let's hold up,
we were-
just
we were
discussion,
here-
please.
Hold on, we got a motion and a second, and now we're in discussion.
Because we were here last time on this, and I think we all agreed that if they came back, and we're not gonna stop anybody from being able to get insurance. And that's,
I'm with Kevin. I went out and looked at the tree. It does have a big divot, or exactly what you want to say. It looked like they cut it before. Now it looks like it's got some rotten in it. As I said, I went by and looked at several different trees. And it does look like if we do cut some of the tree limbs, you gotta try to balance it down, and then we're gonna do more harm to it, and they're gonna have to come back and cut it. It's a beautiful tree. I asked Kevin, kind of go by and take a look at it too. I hate it, but it looks like we're gonna have to cut it.
Anybody else have any discussion? We got a motion and a second. If not, we'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
Any opposed? One nay? Nope. All right. Thank you. Okay, we move on to general public comment. Public is invited to address the board for up to 5 minutes. Maximum period of 30 minutes, please. Hello, Mr. Jerry.
hey, Jerry.
How are you?
Hello, everybody. Nice to see everyone. Good afternoon. Geraldine Mayfield, 1005 Bird Drive. Okay, I'm here in reference to School Street. At the end of September, the beginning of October, you all paved School Street, and from my understanding, and I spoke with a couple of aldermen, that you all are not planning on putting a sidewalk back. That the theory was that you were coming, you would do what you did on Bechtel Boulevard. Well, Bechtel has sidewalks. Bechtel has a bike trail on it. I went and I looked at all of this. For the life of me, I do not understand why we cannot have a sidewalk back. First, second, and third grade, I walked that street 2 keys to school, sidewalk. I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but that sidewalk has been all my life. Mardi Gras is coming up, and I noticed that this was done pre-cruising. Then you went downtown, repaved Government, striped it, it's all nice and pretty. It's still a mess. The businesses are allowed to park back there. They tore the sidewalk up. But we're not going to get a sidewalk back, and all these people going to park, coming to Mardi Gras. Who has the right of way?
No, it'll be dedicated sidewalk. We are waiting, actually, the striping should be there, but it will not be concrete sidewalk. It will be the asphalt sidewalk. We paved over, took in that right of way with the asphalt, but it will be a dedicated sidewalk in the same place the sidewalk was. It will be striped, and there will be a sidewalk.
Okay, it's not going to be a line, it's not going to be a bike path.
No, it's gonna be a dedicated sidewalk.
Okay.
It's just gonna be the asphalt, so that if the road ever gets repaved again, you'll have another brand new sidewalk. It'll be identified by the striping, and we have been waiting on the striping company to get back to that, because they still have to do the crosswalks on Government also. So we're just at their mercy right now as to when they can get it done. We were hoping it would be done months ago, but
Okay, so it's going to be a real sidewalk. And I've been extremely patient tonight, don't you all think?
Jerry brought up a good point, the right of way. Is that CSX from the edge of the road, or do we have any right of way there?
I don't know how much more we've got. But they're probably parking on CSX.
They're parking on CSX right away, that's what I thought.
But we maintain that, because we mow
Keep it
that.
good cut, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Same thing all the way down Government Street, we keep it cut. So we keep that cut too.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else like to address the board? Mr. Dick, come on up.
Well, real quick, I probably missed it, but have we addressed item R on the planning commission?
I do believe so.
Yes.
Yes, that was approved.
Okay, I'm doing my dog.
You're good. All good. Okay, so we'll move on to Mayor and Alderman's forum. Ms. Julie, you want to start us out?
Going backwards?
Go back.
So the best for last.
There you go.
Looking at dates for the workshop, is it possible that we could look at either, and I realized that we were gonna send an email out, but I can go ahead and ask either the afternoon of the 16th possibly, or the evening of the 12th, if we could consider maybe one of those two.
January or February?
January.
Do you have to advertise your
The 12th is.
Down at
We'll be.
We're ready.
12th, we won't be here.
The 12th or the
We'll be
16th?
heading to MML
Okay, so that would be the, okay, so what about the afternoon of the 16th?
I can do that.
on Friday. And when you say, what time are you wanting to do that? I mean, to get everybody there, you're probably gonna have to be after 5 o'clock.
Yeah, it would have to be an
Works for
afternoon, because you get off at what?
I can do one or after on the 16th.
Okay.
Kevin, why do you look perplexed?
Because Friday at 1 and after, I'm gonna be working, but I'll be glad to come by 4:30.
Works for me.
4:30 would probably be good.
But I don't look,
4:30 or 5 o'clock?
yeah, that's
Friday.
good, either or.
All right, Lori, if you don't mind, send that out to everybody and get a consensus and go from there.
4:30 on the 16th?
So special call for work session,
Yeah.
16th, 4:30.
Then unless anybody has a bunch of issues.
I want to thank you, Alan, for getting the decorations for Christmas. Do you have any Mardi Gras decorations?
I'm not sure what we got down there, I have to look around.
How artistic are you feeling?
Not very.
No? That's all I've got.
Okay. Rob?
Drainage, sewer,
So,
all over. I mean, I know we've got some things going, but I still want to keep pushing that, and let's get these studies done. Until we know what we got, where our deficiencies are, we're going to continue to run across problems with any developments.
I think the moratorium would be, I'd like to consider with that.
I just, I want to get an update as soon as possible. I know I keep hounding that, and I'm not trying to hound you, but I just want to get
No, they've already reached out to Neil Schaefer to get a
price. And
estimate on
Okay.
re-upping, but we're also trying to work in-house to identify what we've already done,
Right.
so that we're not paying them to do that also. We can go ahead and identify those.
Like I stated earlier, I talked to Alan about this. I've never seen Beverly Place hold water like it did a couple weeks ago.
I agree. Collapse.
First.
We got there's a problem there.
There's a
So
collapse pipe.
there's erosion.
you found it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that was concerning. So,
And ditches wouldn't have much more water.
no, it wasn't. It wasn't going anywhere. That was the problem. It usually goes down in a day. I mean, they'll have a little water in the concrete swells back there, but
They
that's the
found a
worst.
collapse pipe and that was stopped.
Where was the pipe that was collapsed?
It's about 75 feet from the first driveway to the south of that ditch. It's right there in front of, I'm not sure if that's Coulter's property.
Coulter.
You talking about
Between
Miles or
Robinson and
Terra?
Coulter?
You talking about Miles or Terra? Which street?
It's further down.
Terra end? Okay. That's where there had been, it led to some erosion just south of there too.
Before we
Okay.
knew.
I think that's it. Oh, this may be a Sarah question. The guardrails, they got damaged out on government. Is there a time ETA on,
I'm waiting on a second quote because it was over $5,000.
but you are, okay. I
You
just-
know, on the bridges?
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question about that? Why do they sort of bow a little bit more towards the road? It seems like they're gonna be more prone to get
They've been-
smacked.
they've been-
It seems like it's a weird angle that goes a little bit too far towards
One of the
traffic.
sections has been hit.
Yeah.
Actually, two, the small bridge.
I don't know
too,
if-
but it's
I don't
back in
wanna
and out.
compromise safety, but it just seems like it could curve back more towards the sidewalk than towards the road. I don't know. But, because I've noticed them getting
I think
smacked.
both of them's out of whack right now. We gotta address the railing.
They are.
But I think Alan's got some good news for you on your boardwalk.
Yeah, they picking up material for it today.
Today? All right, so you're gonna start tomorrow.
I'm hoping.
Good, no, thank you, that's been a long time coming, but, yeah. I know everybody, in Stevens' crew and your crew tired of patching, so let's go ahead and replace them all and be done with it. Good deal, thank you.
All right, Mr. Pfeiffer?
Yeah.
Oh, I do have a motion, I'm sorry.
Hang on.
We have authorized employment of Brandon Holloway, water laborer, effective January 7th to 2026, $16 hourly rate, 1-year probationary status, pending successful completion of all pre-employment
I'll
requirements.
second that.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Got a new labor.
I was going to hear holding it, forget.
All right, Mr. Pfeiffer?
All right, I'm just gonna bring up the drainage sewer studies as well. I know we all got an email last night with some, I haven't opened them honestly, but is this gonna lead to a bigger picture? Like, I'd like someone to take a 30,000 foot view, maybe start identifying cost on one list and necessity priorities on another, but I'd like us to take that next step and come up with a nice overall plan for.
And that's what I meant by, we're trying to address it in-house to identify what we've already done, because there's a lot in that, every one of those that we have
The
done.
older ones in there, some of those have actually been corrected or the studies.
And like the sewer portion of it, you know, we spent the majority of the 18 million that we received for infrastructure improvement on the sewer. So that got most of the money, most of the attention. So that's why we're focusing more on the drainage and water right now. But yes, that's what we're asking
I'd like
public
us
works
to all have a
do,
really good
to
understanding.
address what they've done, because they're the only ones that know everything that's been done. So they're going page by page on that, in that book, to identify what's been touched, what hasn't, and then we'll pass that on. I forget, Sarah or Carolyn has already spoke with Andy, with Neil Schaefer, about doing an update on those studies, so.
And then they'll come back to us with some type of, great,
I did, yeah. So we'll just keep moving forward on that. I mean, that's the only thing, the best thing we can do, I think, without wasting money, because it's not cheap, but none of those studies are cheap.
No, and I want to put them into use, so, yeah. Okay, thank you, that was it.
All right, Mr. Wade?
Yeah, I want to thank fire, police, and public works for a job well done New Year's Eve. Ball drop was great.
I heard it was good.
It was nice.
And thanks also to Public Works for the guardrail on Hudson. Looks good. That's it.
That's it? All right, Ms. Dennis?
I just got a couple of old questions. Rayburn, still hadn't seen anything on that. Yeah. Russell, still working all the way to Government Street.
That's the one that's gonna start Monday. Rayburn, they're supposed to start any day on Rayburn. I went down there today, I'm seeing some paint marks on the ground, so somebody come by and do some measuring, so.
Okay.
Karen and I've asked that same question every day in the last 2 weeks. And Alan can verify, because I've called
I
him
wish
every
he
morning.
lose that page of notebook, that's the first two things every morning.
So,
Yeah, I know, but it's just, we have people calling us and, wanting to know.
Been a long time.
These are some old issues, beach property. Have we had anything come up from the, what's going on with that?
talking about the front, the
Front
yard?
beach, yeah.
We got notice today, actually.
So it's potential that they have to do a public hearing. It's probably gonna be the last week of January, that date, not 100% set yet, but I'll send that out as soon as it gets done. But, Front Beach Park,
What about it?
it'll be for the bulkhead and riprap.
So they can start on.
It's a DMR public hearing, they're hosting, obviously welcome to attend, you don't have to.
Just let us know when.
Yes, as soon as that date gets set, it's probably gonna be the last week of January, it'll be an afternoon meeting, like 5:30, and it'll be at the Civic Center.
And one last thing is, what's happening with the Loveless Oak? Is it staying? Is it going? Is it?
Well, it's been voted on to be removed. We
Yeah.
mitigated a lot of the danger for the holiday season, for the Mardi Gras, I really don't want to mess with it until after all that's complete.
Okay.
We don't have,
That's all I got.
okay, Mr. Tillis?
Alan, on Bristol, I've had a couple of complaints, and actually I kind of experienced it myself. You know, they put the new arrows for a straight turn, but when you're in the right lane, people used to actually go straight. Now they're supposed to turn right, but there's no really way to tell which direction. So I guess I'm proposing, can we put a sign up there, or either put a right turn only, an arrow? Does that make, you know what I'm talking about?
I know what we're talking about.
So Bristol and Nottingham.
Do we need the paint freshened up on the road, or is there no turning?
There's
no
nothing,
striping?
yeah, there's nothing there to really.
It's just a blank lane that turns right. We can put an arrow on the ground if you wanted to rather
Yeah,
have an
that
arrow.
would probably be, whatever's easier, that or a sign, right turn only, because it has almost caused an accident or two there.
We have the same issue on Hanley there, heading north from the school.
Yeah.
The arrows are, they need to be repainted.
Those are the pictures I sent.
Then, what's a traffic study cost us if we wanted to do a traffic study ourselves with a different company?
GRPC should.
We usually get ours through Gulf Regional Planning, and they give us a reasonable rate. I'm not sure what that rate is.
I'm not sure the rate, but it's, sometimes they just do it.
Cheaper,
It just
nothing.
depends on how many requests you have and what the reason is.
Yeah.
So I think
And-
Carolyn is in the process of doing a request for that.
Good question, though. At the same time frame that they were out doing that, somebody had put cables on the road. Neil Schaefer did cameras for one day. There were cables on Pabst and government for over a week.
They may have already done it. I know
And-
Carolyn was gonna request it.
Find out if that was who actually did that, please, because I think that may have been done.
Yeah, that'd be something like that. And then, Sarah, the Fort Bayou project, is that almost completed? Because when I had talked to the engineer, he said they were gonna finish up at the end of December, that he would meet with us and we would drive throughout the property, through the Fort Bayou, and make sure that everything was, correct.
So we're setting up a meeting, probably this week or next week. I was gonna reach out to you. The project itself is complete, but we have a little extra funding that we wanna do the best. I've reached out to Stephen with Public Works to see what some of the past issues are. So we're gonna meet and decide which issue is priority for the little bit of money we have.
Okay, because there's still a few things I see that's gonna need to be corrected.
If it's work they've done, we still have to do a walkthrough and all
Yeah,
that, and that will
it
be
looks like
corrected.
it's work they've done.
Yes, we
Yeah.
haven't done a walkthrough.
And then my final thing, I want to thank Amanda for all the hard work that you've had to do just in the last few months with this town hall project. I know you've been overwhelmed with that, so I appreciate all the work you've done with that, so. And that's all I have.
Right. Ken?
So, you have a question about Highway 90 progress, where we're standing at on the studies and what the cities, because there's been a lot of talk about it, and,
The widening project?
yeah, Highway 90 widening
We
project.
are working on funding.
Okay, well, they've been out there locating, marking everything, so I just kind of wanted to know where.
Michael Baker or
It's Baker, and then there's another company that's been out there.
JCUA doing a lot of theirs, JCUA's moving a lot of their stuff now, so that very well could be what they're doing.
Yeah, all the construction along the south side of 90 from Hanshaw, it's gonna go all the way to Oakley. That's JCUA's force main being relocated.
Okay, yeah, I figured that, all right. And the other question I did have is, Karen and Bobby did hit on it, is there is several roads that I'd like to see finished and paved. And is there any way that we can get Russell cleaned up a little bit with some gravel? I know y'all been out there, but.
They're fixing to dig it up Monday.
The rest of it? All right.
They'll be out there working.
Well, government to
Just
that.
dress it up a little bit.
Yeah.
The south end is dressed up.
Yeah.
The north end, you got water cut still coming up.
That's where they're gonna start at, get them all the way to go.
She's talking, you're talking about on Porter though, right?
Talking talking about, the Porter end is dressed.
Talking about is
The other end at Bowen, it's got water coming through there.
Yeah.
So just in case all of y'all don't know what we're doing, we're gonna go ahead and replace that water line all the way from Porter to Government Street. Instead of piecemealing and repaving, we're gonna go ahead and replace it all the way and then repave the whole road. That's what's taking so long.
Get rid of that AC.
So hopefully, once we fix that, it's gonna be fixed.
All right.
Good.
Bobby, I got one thing.
Okay, Matthew, get finished. You finished?
Steve reminded me of it down there when he said the word paint. About 8-9 months ago, with my award funds, y'all bought some black paint for street signs in Ward 5. You sure did. So you have to be done. Talk to Monica, she knows.
I'll find out.
Matt probably knows about the paint, because it was before he was in office.
Okay, it was actually.
Dried up.
9 months ago. It's been unopened, take it back to him.
No, it's been a minute, I
Yeah.
can tell you that.
Yeah. Can we check on that though, because that was something that came up way back that,
I remember, I think it was the Boy Scouts.
they were gonna do it for free, it rained a couple times
Got the
on it,
paint, nobody ever showed up.
and then,
Somebody didn't get their Eagle Scout.
So we painted our trailers in the shop with it.
that's what happened. That's what happened. So we just try to get painted.
No, I'll check on it.
Check on that, let me know, man, I appreciate it.
Okay, if that's all anybody's got. I do not believe we have any executive session items. So we just needed a
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
motion to recess.
Recess till.
January 20th. We got a motion by Alderman Pfeiffer, second by Alderman Hinton, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are recessed, thank you. I couldn't.